21 I had lost it long ago XD. Comma. Third Pav. Hey it's me, or the Sword Saint haven't been patrolling for last few days? Asked a knight, looking at his buddy. Yes, it's weird. Miss Sword Saint is an impeccable knight. The fact that she is not doing patrols is unbelievable, his friend replied grabbing his chin. Don't tell me she is ill, the first knight asked horrified at the very notion of that. Don't joke, isn't it obvious? She must be doing a very important secret mission, said a third knight, and others too nodded. Indeed, to miss several patrols, she must be doing something very important. It might be related to entire kingdom's safety. Second said, and all of three could only imagine what important task the Knight of the Knights was doing and can't help but admire her. Meanwhile, Reina was using several divine protections to peek ahem observe Subaru, who was taking a bath. Indeed, a very important task. Her face blushed as she observed the body of Subaru, his six-packs, sweats glistening down his body. His handsome frame. She bit her lips, and her hands almost found her way down there when suddenly someone entered. She became surprised and quickly withdrew her hand and looked it to find it was Rosewall. What are you doing here? It is rude to interrupt when someone is taking a bath, Subaru said, and Rosewall grinned. It's my YYY mansion, so I can comb here anytimey, he said in his particular way and dipped himself in the water. I won't Lee, your body is really something. He licked his lips, checking his six-packs, making Subaru shiver. Pervert. She glared at Rosewall, irony lost at her. Hey man, I don't swing that way. Subaru quickly stood up, his ding-dong hanging. It's big. Reina's face became beet red as she looked at the size of the sleeping dragon and quickly ran away from the door, while both of them completely unaware of her presence. Once outside, she panted heavily. If that thing was to go inside me, she thought and shivered, then shook her head. Suddenly she acquired a divine protection of the bedroom wiles, and her face became redder. What kind of divine protection is this? She thought, shocked. Odd Laguna itself was rooting for her. If the three knights knew this, they would have lost faith in God. I lost it long ago XD. HMPH. Betty shall find the final velocity and solve this equation. I suppose, Beatrice said as she started solving a standard 9th grade sum. Subaru had already revealed to her that he was from beyond the Great Waterfall, which shocked her. He then made a deal with her. He will provide her otherworld's knowledge and she will let him read all the books in library. First, he decided to check her current level of intelligence, so he directly skipped the basics and taught her friction, Newton's law of motion, 3 equations of motions. It is very simple physics, and after teaching her, he had given her around 10 problems to solve. Meanwhile, he was reading a book that listed various spells of yin magic. The book floated in front of him. After a few days, he found out that exercising increased his mental energy. While she solves, let's see what yin spells we have, he thought. After all, Betty had recorded all types of spells for each magic attribute. It would be foolish if he doesn't learn it. First were the most common yin spells, Shamak, El Shamak, Ul Shamak and Al Shamak, with an extra spell Ol Shamak. Shamak separates the user's senses from its surroundings, making them unable to sense where they are. It also has a secret use. If a huge amount of mana is used by someone with extremely good control, they can render space to achieve teleportation. I guess I should focus more on this spell, he thought. Next came El Shamak. The target becomes unable to control their body or basically are paralyzed. This is a good spell. I would have to ask Reina later to take me to a mobeast-infested area for practice, he thought. Reina has been really helpful to him, that's why he wanted to ensure she doesn't feel uncomfortable with him. Next came Ul Shamak, which created a black hole of immense gravity. Damn, a black hole. The next spell is even more broken. The spell Al Shamak created a different dimension, pulling the target, making it impossible to escape from it. Impossible. If Reina is able to use her sword, she will probably cut the dimension into 2, he thought with a wry smile. However, this spell was so powerful that possibly only a few people in the entire verse can escape from it. Finally, El Shamak, an outlier from conventional spells, was a forbidden spell that paralyzed the target and the gate of the target. There was also a note that it can only be used at full power with someone having a witch factor. Does the RBD count as an authority? He wondered. There was a big hint that it was the authority of envy, however he couldn't be sure. He continued reading. The next spell came Minya, which created crystallized stakes of mana covered with light purple flames, that could penetrate strong defenses. In fact, stakes explode in air to release smaller stakes. El Minya did the same thing, however created up to 40 stakes at once depending on the mana used. Ul Minya meanwhile binds the target and crystallizes their body. Finally, Al Minya, the strongest spell of Minya class, which binds the target and crystallizes the target's very soul. Next comes Vita, which increases the weight of the target. L Vita does the same thing but at increased strength. Ul Vita distorts gravity and shreds the target apart. Al Vita does opposite of the black hole, it is like a white hole that makes the gravity negative. There were a few more spells, however they were just alternatives of previous ones. As he finished reading the book, he found Betty had finished doing the numericals he gave to her and was waiting for him to check. Betty has finished and you should check how Betty did, I suppose, she said, her voice softer than when they had just met. He took the notebook and checked the numericals. All of them are correct, he said, finished with his checking. Betty's eyes shined and she puffed her non-existent chest. Betty is smart, one of the smartest people in this world, in fact. So cute, he thought, and involuntarily his hand found way to her head, and he started patting. What are you doing? I suppose, she asked, panicked, and with a glare. Me, he smiled, I am just rewarding your efforts. Betty must be praised for her excellence. Is that so? Very well, you can praise me then, I suppose. She said, blushing lightly. He wanted to play with her drill-like hair, however he restrained himself. Betty, would you help me with the magic? I want to try some of the spells in the forest, he asked her, and Betty replied. HMPH. If you share more of your science, then Betty can spare time for you, I suppose. She said, and her answer relieved him. He had the idea to talk with Reina, but he decided to use this opportunity to get closer to Beatrice. To be continued. I said the updates will be slow, and ironically this became the only FIC to have the fastest update in my entire writing career. Anyway, I won't edit chaps with AI anymore. I hope you all don't complain about grammatical mistakes, though you are still free to list out the plot holes. Like how by mistake I revealed Subaru's name, when in original chap it was 0. Yeah, I corrected that, and earlier chaps, in every chap everyone calls Subaru by his alias 0. However, Ram's name for Subaru isn't bad, she called him Rose, and it is pretty good, right? There is also a guy ranting about the mistakes of this FIC, it is in the review section, and nope, this isn't same as Artoria Pendragon, who doesn't even knows from where Beander came. This guy gave me a 4-star and then ranted, it seems people are taking it serious when I tell them not to infringe my rights. The review is hilarious, you can go and check it out for entertainment. 25 comments, 0 vote. 22, finally, he wasn't so weak. Third Pav. You didn't need to come with me, Reina, he said, sighing while looking at the sword saint. 0. You will be my future lord, and as your friend how can I let you fall in danger? She said. However, to be true, she felt jealous the moment she realized he was going out with Beatrice. Why didn't he call me? I am stronger than this kid, she thought with jealousy as she glanced at Beatrice. She was his hero, if he was to stay betray the kingdom for him, she will do it in a heartbeat. That's how deep she had fallen in love. And it wasn't pure love either, it was mixture of true love and obsession. If not for the fact she truly loved him, she would have tried to claim him no matter the consequences. Nonsense on top of nonsense, whom are you trying to fool, Reina? HMPH. Do not try to disturb Betty's tutoring then, I suppose, Beatrice said, making Reina's eyebrows twitched. Very well, we are quite deep now. Encountering beasts is not out of the question, said Reina as she looked around. Very well, let me try Murak. He instantly felt himself to be lighter. It was a spell opposite of Vita, a special spell with no prefixal hierarchy. He jumped, and he underestimated his strength. He soared up to 100 meters high in a blink of eyes. Arg! He shouted, shocked by the sudden height. A sonic boom sounded as the ground below Reina cracked and she grabbed him midair, and gracefully landed in front of Beatrice. Stupid 0. Do you not understand your own strength? In fact, Beatrice fumed in anger. I apologize, I shouldn't have done that. Thanks, Reina, you saved me, he said, looking at Reina, who grinned. Do not worry, Zero-sama. Your knight will cover up your mistakes. She winked at him. He blushed, the thought of having someone as beautiful and cute as Reina as his personal knight. Suddenly a growl sounded and they got on alert. From the bushes emerged a woolgram. Let me handle this. Minya. Subaru shot a spear of crystallized man, burning with light purple flames. It tore through Woolgram's defenses, and obliterated its head. Suddenly another growl sounded, and several Woolgrams came out of the bushes staring at them. Reina grabbed her sheath, ready to kill them when Subaru grabbed her shoulder. Reina, let me do it, he said softly, and she nodded. Subaru didn't know that she was a yes girl for him. He unsheathed the sword he had brought from Rosewall, and his body became a blur. El Huma. He used magic, decimating one Woolgram and swiftly cut another's neck. He jumped and a Woolgram opened his jaw, jumping towards him. El Goa. He unleashed fire magic, melting its head, then moved swiftly and dispatched another Woolgram. Slash, stab, slash. He used spells and swords, soon having finished a group of 29 woolgrams by himself. However, in the end he was tired and his fire, wind and yang spirits were exhausted. It was so impressive. You killed a group of woolgram that needs an entire platoon of knights or a squad of elite knights. She said, her eyes shining. She seemed to have totally forgotten that she was the world's strongest knight. Damn it, she is stroking my ego too much, he thought. However, seeing her smiling face, he couldn't say anything. In the original timeline, Rem's praises made Subaru on cloud 9 and he ended up doing that mistake in capital. Well, I can't blame him. Insulting their love in front of them could make anyone angry, he thought. Not to mention Subaru personally thought that Council of Wise Men were too arrogant. If not for Reinhard, in his case Reina, what were they? What was the kingdom without Sword Saint? If Subaru didn't save Amelia, half of the capital would have been destroyed by Puck. Crush Kraston, that bitch would have died in the battle against White Whale. Priscilla would have gone missing and Antastia would have died as well. There would have been no felt for the Sword Saint to swear his loyalty to. The kingdom of Lugunica would have been probably destroyed by the neighboring countries as well. The kingdom is already in a financially tight spot. Tens of thousands of people live in slums. Even having food 2 times is a luxury for the most. I hope they aren't the same in this reality, he thought, though he knew the chance was a slim, a man could wish right. He rubbed his nose and said, "Thank you, Reina. If not for your training, it would have not been possible." She grinned and asked, "You will need to reward me then, right?" "If it is within my power, I will definitely reward you," he said seriously. Her eyes shined and she stared at his palm and then said, "Pet me." Quote, comma, quote. Quote, comma, quote. Beatrice and Subaru looked at her speechlessly and she blushed, realizing what she had spoken. "I mean, pat me. I like when you do." She lowered her head. He chuckled and moved forward, patting her. She melted as he rubbed her hair. Feeling his warmth, she grabbed his palm and guided it to her cheek. "Yeah, there is definitely something wrong here," he smiled wryly. How can he not see the hints? Then again, she might be just love deprived and considers me her elder brother, he thought, deciding to observe more before coming to a conclusion. A.N. Eater India meh, Larky Larko ko baya banati hey, Hamara hero Larky ko didi banata hai, truly mindset of a single people XD. Betty, seeing this, felt jealous. Betty accompanied Zero as well, so Betty should be praised as well, I suppose. She said, and he looked at her in surprise. Well, there you go, he said as he started patting her with his other hand and she involuntarily squealed in happiness. Reina's presence had made Betty jealous, and hastened his development with her. The day passed with training. His exhausted spirits found solace in their master's body. To be honest, he didn't know where they exactly stayed inside him, neither could he ask. They were lesser spirits after all, unable to talk and only convey their emotions. Once they returned, they were greeted by the sight of sumptuous dishes lying on Subaru and Amelia's side. However, on Rosewall's side lied only boiled tattos with salt. The contrast between their food questioned who was the mansion's real master. "Betty, to think you will Comey," Rosewall said with narrowed eyes as she looked at the great spirit of Yin. "Rem, I have invited Reina to eat as well. There should be no problems, right?" he asked the blue-haired Oni, who nodded. "I have made enough food for 3 of you," she said, casting a glance at her sister was drooling seeing their food. However, unfortunately for them, Subaru had strictly forbidden her from making food for them. It hurt her to see her big sister in such a state. Alas, she needed to bear the punishment. Rosewall's eyes shifted on Subaru's lavishing dishes, then his boiled tattos. He lost appetite. "Master, it isn't too late. Do you want me to make some soup for you?" Ram asked him, concerned, and he shook his head. "No, Ram, I think boiled tattos are juiced fine," he said, grunting, obviously displeased. Amelia meanwhile looked at Rosewall somewhat guilty and tugged Subaru's clothes. "Zero, I feel bad that we are eating such good food and Rosewall and Ram are eating boiled tattos," she said. "Feeling bad for the guy who is trying to make you her puppet." He rolled his eyes at her. "Amelia, don't you remember Lord Rosewall is sick, and Ram loves boiled potatoes," he said. Their eyebrows twitched and Ram said, "No need to be concerned, Lady Amelia, me and Lord Rosewall are completely fine." "Is that so? Then I am relieved," she said, and then ignoring them started eating her food. Quote, comma, quote. Quote, comma, quote. Amelia was really naive. A month passed by peacefully, Subaru's prowess growing day by day. Never did a day pass that Reina didn't come to teach him and spend time with him. She seemed to have completely forgotten her nightly duties. According to Reina, Subaru's current sword skills were only surpassed by the likes of Julius. Subaru also learned to physically reinforce himself using mana. Now he could increase his already monstrous strength by several times. According to Reina, Subaru's strength without reinforcement was nearly half of Julius, however his speed surpassed him by a small margin. After reinforcement the gap between them became narrow, as Subaru had a talent to boost his strength immensely for a short duration of time. Today a carriage was parked outside of the Mathers mansion, an old man and a young knight who was none other than Felix and a demi-human femboy. Felix had come on behalf of the Duchess Crush to escort Amelia to capital. Sorry for parking the carriage in front of the mansion, said the old man, Wilhelm as he looked at Amelia and Subaru and Betty who was standing beside him. HMPH. To disturb Betty when she is about to do a scientific experiment. Betty snorted, as she tugged Subaru's sleeves. They have gotten closer to each other in the past month, with Subaru teaching Betty something new every day and they were just about to go outside to do a scientific experiment. Wilhelm looked at the lowly. I have heard about her. She must be the great spirit of Wyan, he thought. His eyes couldn't be mistaken. She seemed rather close to that boy, he thought looking at Subaru. You can call me Zero. On the request of Lord Rosewall I am currently acting as Amelia's bodyguard, he said recalling how Rosewall asked him to be Amelia's bodyguard. He decided to agree to his demands. Firstly he wants to visit capital as well and secondly, he wants to meet with other people. To see how much this reality is different from the original and what other people's personality are, he cannot judge everything from anime. He probably thinks, I am in love with Amelia, he sighed at Rosewall's stupidity. On request of Lord Rosewall. He quickly caught up the words. To be honest I am the honored guest of Lord Rosewall and friend of Amelia, however since she had no suitable knight or bodyguard, he asked me to her bodyguard for the time being, he said. Wilhelm nodded and Felix came out. Naya, I greet you Lady Amelia and also Mr. Zero. They nodded and soon they were escorted to the mansion. Sir Zero, this matter concerns the royal selection, you should wait outside, Rosewall said with a strange glint in his eyes. Amelia looked between them with hesitation. Subaru shrugged and said, fine. Unlike original Subaru he was Amelia's bodyguard, so he had more reason to listen to their discussion. But obviously Rosewall was cooking, and whatever he was cooking was bound to be disastrous. Still I expected her to stand up to me well, she is naive so I guess I can let it go, he thought. He came outside to meet up with Wilhelm. Sir Wilhelm, if I am not wrong you are the famed sword demon right? He asked and Wilhelm nodded. Lord Rosewall didn't let him enter the discussion. I guess his standing is lower than he makes out to be, he thought, considering Subaru is an hired bodyguard. Indeed, though it's in the past. I was once called such, he said recalling some bitter and happy memories. Sir Wilhelm, I have a request. Can I spar with you? Subaru's eyes shined as he asked. Wilhelm became surprised and thought for a moment before replying. If it's a spar then I guess we shall pass time with it. Rem, heard that. Quickly get us some wooden swords, he said to the Rem standing quietly beside him. As you command Master Zero, she said and dutifully brought 2 wooden swords. We shall spar in the garden. They moved to the garden and finally took a battle stance. He seems experienced, Wilhelm noted. Subaru charged at him. With one step he reached near to him and unleashed sword slashes. Stab slash slash. Their swords danced with each other, clashing at a speed invisible to naked eyes. A fine skill of pure swordsmanship, Wilhelm praised as they exchanged blows. Sir Wilhelm, I want to take it to next level, he said and Wilhelm smirked. Very well, young man, and his figure vanished. This time Wilhelm began an offensive and Subaru could only block and parry. Wilhelm was half serious now, while Subaru was sweating, his senses strained to follow Wilhelm's each movement. Wilhelm's each attack made his hands tremble. Suddenly with a clash of their swords, Subaru's sword broke and Wilhelm's sword stopped at his neck. When Subaru vanished, for the first time Wilhelm was surprised and felt a broken sword touching his neck. I lost, he admitted while Subaru sighed and looked at himself. Nope, I lost, I used magic, he said lying to his teeth. Really? Wilhelm's eyes narrowed. While he wasn't a magician he knew how to enhance himself using mana. His mana control and senses rivaled an experienced mage, making him easily counter magicians. However he felt no distortion or use of mana when Subaru vanished. Very well, let's consider a draw. Wilhelm proposed, however Subaru refused. Nope, I lost, I used something I shouldn't have. Wilhelm nodded, unwilling to say anything further about this. Though I must admit, your skills are polished and you don't seem to lack experience. If we both used mana to enhance ourselves, I doubt I could win easily, he praised Subaru. You shouldn't praise me, you should praise my teacher who taught me, she is really the best of the best, he said praising Reina. If I am not being too presumptuous, may I ask who your teacher might be? Wilhelm asked, obviously curious. She is someone you know very well. Subaru smirked and Wilhelm's eyes narrowed. It can't be. Is it her? He thought but then shook his head. He doubted that monster would teach anyone. Her name is Reina van Astria, Natsuki declared proudly, and Wilhelm was stunned. Reina, he whispered in disbelief. He remained silent. Soon Felix returned and looked surprised seeing Wilhelm in deep thought while Subaru standing quietly near him. Naya, what happened? Felix asked and Wilhelm broke out of his stupor. Nothing my friend, just a small spar between a junior and senior, he said before nodding to Subaru. Sir Zero, I hope you can become a royal knight soon, he said before getting in the carriage. Soon they left. Meanwhile Subaru tried to repeat what he had involuntarily done, and successfully teleported. Amazing. It seems I have unlocked a new psychic ability. He thought overjoyed. His control over psychic energy have seemed to met the criteria to unlock teleportation. He tried to teleport again, this time in the village. He successfully appeared in village and grabbed his head in pain. I guess, I cannot teleport too far, it drains too much of my psychic energy, he thought. However, looking back to his past month and his spar with Wilhelm, gave him much needed confidence. Finally, he wasn't so weak. To be continued. I was wondering if I should divide this chapter further, but anyway you guys deserve a long chapter. Anyway, I won't be uploading any other FIC this week, so yeah, give me all of your power stones in this FIC, I want to be in top 50 at least so it can get more exposure to other readers. Don't donate power stones in my other fics, you won't get any new chaps. Just so you know, this FIC has comfortably 50 chaps, out of which 22 have been released. Some are super short, some are medium and a few are long like this one. 29 comments 0 vote. Pissed. Download the app for additional rewards. More events, more perks. Winning you more free perks. Download now. Acros_0. Download app now. 23, Julius Jukelius. Third POV. The journey to the capital was a peaceful one, with 3 of them or 4 if you include Puck were seated in the carriage as they passed by the Flugels tree. Rem was driving the carriage, while Amelia and Subaru were seated in the back. Impressive, they all have been promoted into quasi-spirits. Puck praised Subaru as he looked at Subaru's 4 spirits, all of which were now quasi-spirits. The spirits make contracts with humans for another reason. Depending on the spiritual affinity of the contractor, they receive a boost in their growth, and spend much less time to advance to next rank of spirits, Puck explained. Zero's spiritual talent is highest I have ever seen. Monstrous if you ask me, so it is not unreasonable that in 1 month all of his lesser spirits became quasi-spirits, Puck said. That's amazing Zero. Amelia's eyes shined. She only felt admiration towards Subaru. Well, I guess this is indeed something impressive. Damn, I didn't knew this before, otherwise I would have contracted a lesser earth spirit from the beginning, he said. He realized that spirits grow faster with a contract and depending on their contractor's spiritual affinity around half a month ago, when he realized that he quickly contracted a lesser earth spirit. Despite the forest beside the mansion, I couldn't find any earth quasi-spirits, he sighed, and summoned his spirits. 5 bobs of mana manifested in his hands. They were quasi-spirits of fire, wind, water and yang, with a less shining lesser spirit of earth. With the rate your spirits are evolving, I estimate a year would be enough for them to become true spirits, Puck said, surprising all 3 of them. Master Zero is really strong, Rem thought as she drove the carriage. Zero, you still lack a yin spirit, why haven't you contracted one already? Asked Puck floating. Yes. Zero, why haven't you contracted an yin spirit? If you do, you will become a spirit knight just like Sir Julius, asked Amelia. Subaru sighed and said, there is a valid reason for that, however I cannot tell you now. Puck remained silent though he had an inkling of what he wanted, while Amelia was confused. Soon they arrived at the capital. Subaru was wearing a black t-shirt and blue pants. He had a belt strapped, with a sheath containing a fine sword. As they walked towards their destination, he encountered the Appa store and the owner that he had met when he had just arrived. Although in the latest loop he hadn't encountered Appa store, he had promised to buy Appas from him in previous loops. Sir, can we get some Appas? He asked with Amelia beside him. Rem had gone to secure a place for them to stay. Oh, indeed. Appa store smiled. Soon he was holding a bag of Appas while eating one raw. Apples are good, no matter the world, he commented. Apples. Amelia looked at him confused. Oh, I mean Appas, from where I come from, they are known as apples, he explained to her and she nodded in understanding. Amelia, try one Appa as well, he said, finishing a Appa and handing it over to her. I have never eaten an Appa raw, however, I will try, she said while Subaru's eyebrows twitched. Raw, do you boil it and eat them? He asked, feigning surprise. No, I mean, I haven't eaten appas that aren't peeled, she said, shaking her head, blushing in embarrassment. Haha, I was just joking, he smiled, and she pouted a little. Soon they arrived at their destination, and so he met him, the finest of knights, Julius Juculius. Lady Amelia, it is nice to meet you, he said, kneeling before her. You have grown only more beautiful, he said, taking her hand and planting a kiss on it. Ah, you must be the famed, finest of knights, Sir Julius, Subaru said, and he looked at him. Whom you might be? Julius asked. I am Amelia's bodyguard, sort of her unofficial knight for the time being. You can call me Zero, he said while analyzing Julius. Julius's eyes got a glint on hearing Subaru call himself an unofficial knight, and he said, as a bodyguard you should know your position and call Lady Amelia with respect, and must add a respectful title before her name. Man, chill, don't be so serious about knightly customs. Subaru chuckled, however it seemed to only anger the knight. It is dishonorable for a knight to take everything so lightly. Miss Amelia, I recommend you to take someone else as your bodyguard, preferably an official knight, Julius suggested. Subaru's smile dropped and he muttered, what's about great being a knight anyway? Julius was angered, however before he could say anything Amelia interrupted, enough. There is no need for you to fight with him, Zero. Subaru raised his hands in defeat. Fine, he muttered. Julius too nodded, giving a glance at Subaru before walking towards the door of the mansion, to open it for Amelia. Miss Amelia, I will get the conference mirrors ready, although I suggest you don't bring him inside, he said. Subaru remained silent and looked at Amelia, who hesitated. Puck, what should I do? She asked her wannabe father. While Zero is a good bodyguard, he lacks etiquette, which can be a problem, as Rosewall suggested, and I don't think you will be in any danger with so many knights, especially Julius here, Puck said. She turned towards Zero and said, Zero, I apologize, however you should stay back. He looked at her in slight disbelief before nodding, fine. To be continued. Guys, give me your power stones. 23 comments, 0 vote. 24, she is actually Gilgamesh, bonus chap. Third Pav. Here I thought I am her best friend. He felt slight sour, having been given the same treatment as original Subaru. Well, she did hesitate, not to mention Rosewall has been pulling strings. If not for him, Amelia would let me participate more in her tasks, he thought, however he wasn't particularly sad. Whatever. I will see what happens tomorrow. This is also an opportunity to meet Priscilla, he said. He wanted to confirm the personality of Priscilla, one of the candidates in royal selection, and examine how different or similar her personality was to the original timeline. He ordered his wind spirit to search for a woman with orange hair and crimson eyes. While quasi-spirits like lesser spirits couldn't communicate verbally, they could transmit their emotions and had a certain sense of self. Thus, they could do some simple tasks. Soon he reached into an alley and saw the 3 thugs trying to corner Priscilla. They are courting death XD. Do you want to mess up your pretty face? Said Gon. Yeah, if you don't want to ruin that pretty face of yours, you better give all the money you have, said Chin. Khan meanwhile nodded. Don't make such a racket, commoners. Truly foolish people pick up a fight for most of the foolish reasons, though I guess it is expected from wastes like you, she smirked while insulting them. 3 of them fumed in anger hearing their insults. Oh man, didn't I told you last time to give up on stealing and earn money in an honorable way? Suddenly they heard someone's voice and the thieves turned back to see Subaru. Who the he? Wait a minute. You are the same guy before then. Who beat us all 3? Chin said, shocked, stepping back. What should we do? Khan asked, looked at Subaru in fear. However, before they could react, Subaru moved his body a blur and 3 of them were thrown away like a sack. Damn it. Run, Chin said as he stood up groaning in pain and ran away, followed by the 2. There, they are gone, he said as he looked at their backs and turned towards Priscilla. Do you expect Miniself to praise you, peasant? You only made it less enjoyable for me, she said while holding her fan. I guess it's called a basic decency to thank someone, though in this case it should have been them to thank me for saving their lives, he said with a smirk. Ohu, you knew. Not bad, peasant, she smirked and then continued. The world is designed to operate the best way for me, so, it can only mean that you are meant to be my servant. She declared proudly, pointing her fan at him. Subaru looked at her confused. How the heck it went from 0 to 100 out of nowhere? She summoned her yang sword and slashed towards him. Subaru's eyes widened as he barely dodged her strike. Not bad, rejoice, peasant. I shall give you a chance of serving Miniself, Priscilla said with a grin while unsummoning her sword. No thanks, also slashing at me, you are too full of yourself, he said glaring at her, his right hand on the hilt of his sword. HMPH. I was just testing you. If my servant cannot dodge a casual attack from me, then they aren't worthy of even carrying my shoes, she said as she stepped forward. Her eyes suddenly fell on the appas which he was holding in his paper bag. What is this peasant? She asked, as if forgetting her earlier actions. Great. I have met a blind woman, he snarled and her eyes narrowed. Apologize, peasant. My magnanimity has its limits, she said with a small glare. Nope, I won't, and for your information it's an appa, he said. Lies. Appas have white flesh. You can't fool me. To think you will try to fool me with such a blatant lie. She said, dissatisfied. Oh really? He smirked and kept the bag of appas beside him, took an appa and threw it upwards and drew his swords, then in a beautiful arc he strikes. Then he caught the appa, which was now peeled, and cut into several pieces. Seeing this, Priscilla's eyes shined a bit. So you were speaking truth, indeed, you are destined to be my servant, she smirked. Nope, I won't be your servant, in fact I won't be anyone's servant, I am king of Miniself and love my freedom very much, so thank you, he said, putting a piece of appa in his mouth and chewing. Priscilla's eyes narrowed before she sighed and said, whatever, the world works as I desire. I am sure you will soon come to me wanting to become my servant, while wagging your tail. If she wasn't a royal candidate I would have given her the taste of my E-rated fists, he thought with his eyebrows twitching. My lady, you are here, Alderban said as he entered the alley with Amelia beside him. Oh, Amelia, you are here, Subaru said as he looked at Amelia and she pouted a bit. Didn't I told you to wait outside? I had to search for you, she said, dissatisfied. Come on, I am not your servant, Subaru said, and she flinched. Ah, I am sorry, Zero, she said, bowing her head. You waited for me where I would be. I commend for your dedication, Al, Priscilla said, suddenly garnering their attention. Amelia quickly hid behind Subaru, seeing another royal candidate, while Priscilla smirked. Let's leave, Amelia, and man, you better control your master, otherwise she might go murdering people, Subaru said to Al, who nodded somewhat absent-minded. Foo-foo, Zero, I will be waiting when you swear your fealty to me, Priscilla said, waving her fan as she looked at the standing carriage. Amelia flinched and tugged Subaru's sleeves and asked, what is she saying, Zero? Her voice contained nervousness. Nothing, just some nonsense of a narcissistic woman, he said, and Al stood in front of him. It's not nice to insult my lady in front of me, he said to Subaru while with narrowed eyes under his helmet. Whatever, hey Miss Orange Hair, here, catch, he said, throwing the cut apple to her, and she caught it, looking at him somewhat confused. Then she smiled. I see, offering Miniself this sweet appa to cur favor with me, I will be more pleased if you were to kneel before me. Subaru rolled his eyes in exasperation. What will she think if she knew? I threw the apple to her as I wasn't going to eat it and didn't want to waste it either. He is basically using her as an organic dustbin XD. Priscilla put a piece in her mouth and nodded, satisfied, ignoring that he had literally used a sword to cut it, and got up in the carriage. Alderban took the reins and drove the carriage away. So Zero, she is. Amelia looked at him with hesitation. Priscilla's earlier words have put doubt in her mind. Oh, if you mean by the fact that she is one of the royal candidates, then yes, I know, he said, and her doubts intensified and she became silent. Does Zero want to leave me? Why? Because I am a half-elf. She thought in desperation. Zero, after all, was her first and her only best friend, or even friend if we stretch. I confirmed her personality. In simple words, she is actually Gilgamesh, just replacing the word mongrel with peasant or commoner in her speeches, he joked, though he knew she wouldn't get the reference. She nodded, and soon they arrived at the inn, and thus the day passed. To be continued. Give me all of your POWERSTONES. 24 comments, 0 vote. 25 Restart the loop. This chap is bigger than your dick. Third POV. It was next day at the royal capital, and the day when the royal selection was finally to start. However, Amelia refused him to let him accompany her to the castle. Amelia, now this is being too much. As your bodyguard I deserve to visit the castle, he said with slight anger. I know. However, me and Rosewall decided to not let you accompany me as there will be enough safety in the castle and you seem clueless about noble etiquettes. I apologize, she bowed down and he sighed. Fine, you can go without me, he said with slight anger, but not on her but on Rosewall, and quickly calmed himself while Amelia left. Master Zero, Lady Amelia might not seem like, however she does cares for you, Rem said. I know, he thought, should he just honestly stay? But if Rosewall's plans were to derail, then he would take on a much aggressive approach. There was one thing he had realized from observing Rosewall over the month. Rosewall supposedly has no idea why the new Subaru was so strong. He seemed frustrated, and if there is anything to go by, Subaru thinks either his book of wisdom had stopped working, or rather it can't record him. But Rosewall has the idea of what was supposed to happen in original, here forms a contradiction. No matter how strong Subaru might be now, he was nothing in front of Rosewall, who might just kill him to restart the loop. Well, if I am going to follow the plan, then I shall do it with a blast, he thought, smirking, knowing well how to go in the castle. Reina, he called out, feeling a bit shameful. The next moment the beautiful girl appeared in front of him. You called for me, Zero? She asked, her eyes shining as she looked at him. Ahem, today the royal selection starts, right? I want to actually visit it, he said, and she was surprised. Zero, isn't Lady Amelia was supposed to allow you to come with her? You are even acting as her mere bodyguard, Reina said with slight venom in her voice. Subaru quickly explained to him the entire situation, putting emphasis on how it was Rosewall's idea, though he knew the blame lied in Amelia as well. Pathetic, first they had the audacity to ask you to be her bodyguard, and now they even treat you so less, she clenched her fists. He patted her head, her anger vaporizing as she blushed with glee. I am sorry, Reina, but I have to ask for a favor, he said, and she nodded. Don't worry. This is a small task for me. She patted her chest. Thus, saying bye to Rem, he followed Reina to the castle. This place is truly big, Subaru commented as he sat in the carriage with Reina in front of him. However, she was staring at his face entranced, wanting to capture the way he lazily looked outside the window into her memories. She secretly used her divine protection to capture the moment with her eyes. Suddenly the carriage halted. Zero, we have arrived. Just follow me, she said as they got out of the carriage. Some nobles and knights too had just arrived. They looked at Reina when she came out of the carriage. Isn't she the famed sword saint? Someone whispered. Indeed, I heard she is the strongest successor, another person whispered. Meanwhile, Subaru came out of the carriage following her, garnering the unexpected attention. Follow me, Zero. Considering you are currently a bodyguard, it will be fitting if you join the knights line, she said, and he nodded, soon arriving in the hall. At right side there were nobles standing, while on the left were the royal knights. Reina's entranced garnered her some attention, however it wasn't much, but when people's eyes fell on the boy following her, they got curious. Zero, Amelia said in disbelief, as she had told him to not come into the castle. Why are you here? Didn't I say you to stay back at the hotel? She asked with slight betrayal in her eyes. It is a very important day for you, so, I had to come, despite your orders, he said, not a bit flinching. Zero, you might be a guest in my mansion, but here you are her bodyguard, Rosewall said with a small smile. But foremost, I am her friend, and isn't it a bodyguard's job to follow whom they are supposed to protect? Subaru said without any hesitation, looking directly into Rosewall's eyes. Well, then suit yourself. I apologize for the problem it has been caused to you to bring him here. Rosewall gave a slight bow to Reina, who nodded. Amelia looked at Subaru disappointed, while his words about being friends did move her. However, Rosewall had warned her that Subaru's presence might cause them complications. Zero, I think you shush. Amelia was about to say something when Reina got in front of Subaru. Lady Amelia, the conference is about to begin, and it will be very, very rude to Zero if you throw him out, Reina said in a measured tone, hiding venom in her voice. Throw him out? I didn't mean that, Amelia gasped, garnering a small attention from nearby people. Lady Amelia, people are looking, and as she said, it is too late, Rosewall said, and Amelia sighed in defeat. Fine, but you must explain this to me when we return, she said with a small glare before turning around. It seems you are here as well, bro, said Alderban as he chimed in, standing beside Priscilla. HMPH. Peasant, from what I hear is that you sneaked in, without your master's order. I assume you are here to give me your loyalty. Priscilla said, waving her Chinese fan. Dream on, Subaru replied, and Reina had a poker face, however she was fuming inside. How dare this bitch try to make my Zero as her servant? She thought, if not for her divine protection, her calm face would have been twisted in anger. The wise men have entered. Suddenly a voice announced. It seems, the conference is about to start. My lady, you go forward, while we shall take our place among knights, Alderban. Do not order me, Al, she snarled. I was merely suggesting. Al bowed and she nodded, satisfying before stepping forward. Zero, follow me, Reina said, tugging his sleeves, and he nodded. The three of them got in the knight's line. There they saw Felix. Naya, so you are here, he said, glancing at Subaru. He recalled how Wilhelm had told him that Reina was teaching Zero in swords and how much potential her disciple held. Indeed, as Amelia's bodyguard I cannot leave her out of blue, right? He shrugged and Felix nodded. Ah, Miss Reina, greetings to you as well, Felix said, looking at Reina, whose face was emotionless. No matter how many times I see her face, it still looks creepy, thought Felix as he quickly got behind. Miss Reina, I give you my greetings. I was wondering why you were so late. Suddenly Julius turned towards Reina and gave a bow. She just nodded. Well, I asked her to bring me here, so she got late, Subaru said, seeing Reina was quietly standing, not replying to Julius. You are Lady Amelia's bodyguard. Julius narrowed his eyes. He then looked at Reina, who suddenly got in front of Subaru. Is something the matter, Sir Julius? She said. Hearing her emotionless robot-like voice, he shuddered and got back. And nothing, and turned towards the wise men who had just made themselves comfortable on their seats. Reina, telepathy, Subaru whispered, and her eyes finally showed some emotion. Is there something you want to talk with me? Her voice sounded sweet contrary to her cold tone. She spoke to Julius. Is Sir Julius your friend? He asked, and she replied, no, why do you ask? Subaru frowned and said, nothing, let's focus on the conference. Now, if I may be forward, I Marcos, the leader of the Royal Knights, will precede today's conference. Mikoltiv, one of the wise men, spoke. It started all half a year ago, when the royal family including the king went into hiding, causing panic. Excuse me, I know you want to talk a good show here, however, I am pretty busy as we say in Kuraragi, time is money, so tell me why you have gathered us here, said Anastasia Hoshin. I agree, Crush nodded, and Marcos looked at her. Crush-sama, as the head of Karsten family, should you say such thing? Marcos asked. As they talked as if having a tea party, Subaru silently observed. Here everyone speaks in Japanese, however writing language is different. Moreover, people in anime world look like a perfect mix of all races from my past life. They are more beautiful and handsome, he thought. He didn't have the liberty to think much about it, however he had noted how as a Japanese he looked much different from the Japanese back in world, making him Natsuki look only more handsome. As if to say, they all looked like real-life fairies, and if to sprinkle some shentia, everyone here was a jade beauty. He chuckled at the last thought. Suddenly Heinkel entered. I am Heinkel, current head of Astria House, presenting the last candidate, Miss Felt. Heinkel made a dramatic entrance, garnering everyone's attention. For the first time, he wasn't reeking of alcohol and looked more dignified. Felt entered the room and joined the royal candidates. She was wearing a royal yellow gown, and her hair was adorned with a ruby. Her skin also looked healthier than her previous self, making her look very cute. Then the Council of Men explained Dragon's prophecy and the reason they are here. Very well, the royal candidates may step forward and share their ideals, said Marcos. First came Priscilla with her Knight Alderban. The selection is pointless, as I alone am destined to rule this kingdom. All you people need is to grovel at my feet and serve me. Priscilla gave her speech. Nobles and royal knights looked at her in slight disbelief. Then came Crush with her attendant Felix. Should I become a ruler, I will make the dragon forget the covenant and break it. The empire of Lugunica doesn't belong to the dragon but to us. She declared again, causing a slight surprise among who were present. Then came Anastasia with her attendant Julius. I am a greedy person. No amount of commercial success can satisfy me. I want my own nation. She bluntly stated her desire, stunning everyone. Natsuki Subaru's eyebrows twitched seeing this. Seeing on screen is different, however, when I think these guys are possible rulers, no wonder Lugunica was doomed without Subaru's interference. Next came Amelia and the man endorsing her, Rosewall. I have only one desire. I wish to create a nation where everyone is treated equally. Her speech was brief and short. Next came Felt and the man endorsing her, Heinkel van Astria. Now better listen up carefully. 'Cause if I become a ruler, I will turn it upside down. For starters, I would destroy the slums and renovate it to make it a place for living. I will ensure that every citizen of Lugunica goes bed with a full stomach, and I will use nobles' money to do that. She said. What kind of joke is this? I have been enduring since it was urgent, but these people are supposed to be the candidates for our future rule. And which noble house does Miss Felt belongs to? A noble raised his voice. Can I know, from where Miss Felt comes? Suddenly a wise man asked Heinkel, who hesitated. She is a commoner, however she is well. Heinkel was interrupted. Then listen up better. I come from the place which you people have forsaken. From the slums. Felt declared, widening everyone's eyes. A gutter rat. Astria family is supporting a gutter rat. Another noble raised his voice. Not to mention, Rosewall L. Mathers is supporting the half-devil. Yes, a half-devil is a royal candidate. What kind of joke is? I am not a half-devil. Amelia tried to calm them down, however her words only fueled anger. Shut up, half-devil. Who will choose this half-devil as their ruler anyway? Begone, witch. You are bad omen for the kingdom. Amelia looked down as she bore her insults. My, it isn't good to say a half-elf, a half-devil, Rosewall said, however it didn't stop their insults. Subaru, who was silent till now, looked at Rosewall, who was smiling. He knew that original Subaru would have done this, he thought, and then smirked. You want a show? Fine, I will give you a goddamn cinema. He thought and devised a plan. It's risky, however Reina is here. If I play my cards right, I can get Rosewall out of the picture. Suddenly his eyes lit up. Shut up, all of you, he shouted, startling everyone. He calmly walked out of the line and stood between the two. Are the nobles know all high-ranking people of this kingdom are so foolish? He continued. What are you saying? What I am saying. You are stupid, all of you, he shouted, earning gasps from everyone. The audacity, the nobles fumed. Amelia has been chosen as dragon priestess by the divine dragon Volcanica itself. Do you say that the dragon is wrong? He said. The kingdom of Lugunica belongs to its people, not the dragon. Argued a noble, showing his support for Crush. Oh really? The kingdom of Lugunica is called the Dragon Kingdom for a reason, dumbass. And when the kingdom was at peril, it was the divine dragon who saved the kingdom. He said, making the noble hesitate. And you call Amelia a half-devil? On what basis? Just because she is a half-elf? He asked. Indeed, she has the same race as the Witch of Envy. A nobleman shouted, his face flushed with anger. Then, if a royal knight steals, bullies people, rapes women, should I assume that all of the royal knights are scum? His words suddenly shook everyone, and the sounds of sword drawing echoed the room. Do not dare insult our knight order, Julius said, pointing his drawn sword towards Subaru, who ignored his threat. If a noble steals from people, wait. They always do. So, all of them are scum? He asked again. What's your point, boy? A wise man asked in a displeased tone. As I said, if I were to assume that whole class of a people are scum just because of one person, then what does it makes me? A stupid, foolish, biased, ignorant person. And that's what you all are doing, he said. Now everyone was silent, however a chill permeated the room as Subaru has insulted both the nobles and royal knights who were staring at daggers at him. Suddenly someone clapped, the sound broke the uneasy silence and everyone turned towards the source. It was none other than Reina who was clapping. I couldn't have said it better, she said, shocking everyone, especially the royal knights. Julius's hands trembled. Miss Reina, he muttered in disbelief. I support Sir Zero's words, she declared, stunning everyone. Stupid girl, Heinkel gritted his teeth. Oh, do you think the same? Asked Miklatov while stroking his beard. Indeed, she replied, however it gave everyone the message. Miss Reina, it is blasphemy. Do you think royal knights would even plunder and rape? Asked Julius. You ask me whether they would do, however, they have already done it, she said, shocking everyone. I have discovered at least 3 royal knights who have raped women, especially from slums. Countless knights plunder people every day, as such I feel ashamed to call myself a knight. She said, her words stunning every knight. Rosewall's smile fell, seeing how things were turning up, and he quickly made a move. Sir, I ask forgiveness from my servant. I will thoroughly punish him once he leaves, Rosewall said, intending to end this matter at once. Servant, snorted Subaru. I do not remember being your servant, Rosewall, the disciple of the Witch of Greed. His words earned other gasps from everyone. What are you doing? Accusing the person who took you in? Rosewall said, and even Amelia glared at Subaru, misunderstanding his attentions. Miss Reina and everyone here who has the ability to discern lies from truth, hear what I am about to say. Subaru declared. Rosewall L. Mathers is the disciple of the Witch of Greed, and he is trying to use Miss Amelia to revive his master. His words shocked everyone. Boy will shock them too much that they will simply die of shock at this rate. Blasphemy. To insult your own master's sponsor. Julius couldn't bear to watch this drama anymore. What Subaru was doing was against the very nature of a knight. He was betraying and accusing his own master. Thus, misunderstanding the situation, he attacked Subaru only for his sword to be intercepted by a sheath. Miss Reina, he glared at her as she shielded Subaru. No one can hurt Zero, not in my watch, she said. Rosewall's eyes turned dangerous. He didn't know how Subaru knew the truth, but he had already deemed this loop a failure. Using magic, breaking the sound barrier, he punched through Subaru. The attack was so sudden and unexpected that neither Subaru could dodge it, and neither could Reina intercept it. She was too busy in stopping Julius, and then she turned around with her eyes widening. Subaru puked blood as Rosewall crushed his heart, a big hole visible in his chest. Restart the loop, he said, and used magic, blowing Subaru's body into cinders. Everyone froze, while Reina's eyes widened in horror. Natsuki Subaru has died for the 6th time, *64. So much for not being able to hurt on my watch, my ass. To be continued. Give me all your power stones, let's get it top 30s if possible, in top 20s. If we get in top 20, I will upload 2 bonus chaps each day. If we get in top 10, I will upload 3 bonus chaps. 33 comments 0 vote. 26 Why do you fear? Why do you waver? Bonus chap. Comma. Third POV. Ag. Subaru gasped for air as he looked around. He was at the conference and from the looks of it Antastia was announcing her ideals. 0. Are you alright? Asked Reina as worry appeared on her face. Yeah, bro you good? Asked Alderban. Yeah I am good, just a sudden shock, he said and stood straight. Reina looked at him before turning. It was Amelia's turn. Meanwhile, he glanced at Rosewall. Damn my plan failed. I forgot while Reina is strong, she isn't omnipotent, he thought but again author and world has glazed Reinhardt or in his case Reina so much, that he thought with her nothing could go wrong. He didn't know Rosewall had no hostility towards him, only indifference when he killed him in the previous loop resulting the failure of Reina's divine protections to detect Rosewall's intent. That's why Natsuki Subaru died so unexpectedly. He quickly checked his mana and was surprised to find his mana had almost quadrupled. Since he had better mana sensing abilities, he was able to gauge his mana perfectly, unlike the previous loops. Wait, was my earlier speculation wrong? No, it isn't that, rather the quality of my mana and quantity both had doubled, he soon discovered. In fact, if he sees carefully, he could see mana in the air now, showing how much his abilities had increased. There was another thing he felt, a tug, it was as if something was calling him. He decided to ignore it for now. May I ask from which house does Miss Felt belongs? Asked a noble. Heinkel hesitated for a moment before replying. She is a commoner, however, she is well educated and Astria family had made sure that she is deserving of being a dragon priestess. A commoner? Asked another man in surprise. HMPH. I am from the place that you snobbish nobles have abandoned. It is none other than the slums. She declared. Princess. There was no need for you to say something like this, Heinkel face-palmed himself in exasperation. She is a gutter rat. What kind of joke is this? Astria House is supporting a gutter rat. Shouted a noble. Not to mention Rosewall L. Mathers is supporting that half-devil. Why even that witch is here? Tell her to get out. Indeed filthy witch. Get that half-devil out of here. As the nobles started insulted Felt and Amelia, and soon just Amelia Subaru snapped. Shut up. I had enough of this crap. Said Subaru silencing everyone. I believed that the nobles and the royal knights will be above such petty things, but all I see is disappointment, he said as he stepped outside of Knight's line. I would like to introduce myself. I am Miss Amelia's temporary bodyguard, however foremost I am her friend and ally. He said, garnering everyone's attention. Half-devil's ally. Her friend. You must be a witch cultist. Barked one noble when Subaru glared at him. The noble stepped backwards, sweats rolling down his back. It wasn't just him. Everyone's senses screamed danger, even Julius felt a slight threat. Only Rosewall and Reina shrugged off Subaru's killing aura. Witch cultist you say? Whether I am a witch cultist or not doesn't matters, but the fact is you are pathetic, you all are pathetic, he said. 0. What are you saying? Amelia shouted as she looked at him. I am just saying what should be said, Subaru said and then continued. 400 years ago, the first sword saint, the divine dragon and the great sage sealed the Witch of Envy. Yes, everyone knew about it. However, if half-elves were really evil then why didn't the 3 slaughter all of them? Why did the same divine dragon who sealed the Witch of Envy had selected this half-elf you all despise as a dragon maiden? Why give her a chance? He said. What's your point boy? Mikoltov asked stroking his beard. It is simple, this people are fools, and idiots and racists. They consider themselves to be superior to demi-humans, superior to commoners, superior to people of slums. However, they are wrong. Utterly so. Worth of a person isn't judged by in what condition they have been born but what they had achieved. Divine Dragon judges Amelia, Felt and all the other 3 women worthy. He said. This kingdom still exists despite such foolish people ruling it, for only 2 reasons, he paused garnering everyone's attention. Which 2 reasons you speak of? A wise man asked. Because of the covenant with the divine dragon and because of the sword saint. He said. If not for Sword Saint, do you think you would have won us the wars against other kingdoms? Against rebellions? If not for the divine dragon, how this kingdom would have been founded? How it will it exist till now? He said. If not for these 2 who sacrificed their peace, your sorry asses might be experiencing the same thing as you the slaves. He declared. Blasphemy. You dare say we shall be treated as slaves? Fumed a noble in anger. 0, muttered Amelia biting her lips, his words had indeed moved her. I support this half-elf you fear. And she shall become the queen, destroying the fake facade of superiority you have. God have made everyone equal and as such we shall be. Natsuki walked towards Amelia and stopped in front of her. What do you fear? Why do you waver? Are you not supposed to be the future queen of this kingdom? He asked, and she flinched, looking straight into his eyes. Her moist purple eyes stared at his black eyes. A tint of blush appeared on her face. Say it loudly. Say it with determination. Say your ideals. And achieve them, he said, and she nodded. She took a deep breath and said, I am Amelia. I know many of you are worried that I am a half-elf, but I am also someone who is chosen by the divine dragon. I am also a spiritual arts user, and in contract with Great Spirit of End. Great Spirit of End. A man looked at her in disbelief as Puck manifested. Haha, Zero, what you did was to my liking, Puck said with a smile before glaring at nobles. I am Great Spirit of End. And remember, I shall protect my daughter with my life. He said. Now I declare, as a ruler I want to make a kingdom where everyone is equal, there shall be no difference between a noble and commoner, a human and demi-human. She said loudly, her face flushed. Good, Subaru nodded and then looked at Rosewall, whose mouth was wide opened. Suddenly someone clapped. Everyone looked at the person who dared to clap for the person who offended every noble and royal knight. It was the Sword Saint. A genuine smile was on her face, as she clapped. Well said. She praised him. A wise man asked her, Miss Reina, don't you think it is too presumptuous to clap for him when he just offended the entirety of nobility? Even if it is, then I don't care. What this kingdom needs right now is no knight, but a ruler, and if a person speaks the truth in front of everyone, disregarding every threat for the future of kingdom, for better of us, is that not worthy of being praised? She said, stunning everyone. Mikoltov smiled. Lady Amelia, you have a fine ally, a fine bodyguard, he praised him. Thank you, Sir Mikoltov, even if these fools couldn't understand I expected no less of the wisest man in the kingdom, Subaru praised him. Mikoltov grinned, happy to hear his praise and then said, as Zero here said. Divine Dragon itself had made the prophecy making Lady Amelia and Lady Felt eligible for the royal selection. Who are we to disregard the Divine Dragon's orders when it has sheltered our kingdom for centuries? Thus, we council of wise men shall decide the next ruler based on the achievements of each candidate, not on their class, race or position, he declared, shocking everyone. What do you all think? He asked the other wise man. For a moment there was a silence. I agree, one raised his hand. I too agree, another one raised his hand. Soon all the 6 members present expressed their opinion in favor. It is decided then, in 3 years' time the future ruler of the kingdom will be crowned, Mikoltov said and then glanced at Reina and Subaru. He knew that Sword Saint supported someone for the first time, and it wasn't Amelia but the boy in front of him. He knew the value of the Sword Saint, not to mention Zero's words were indeed to his liking. Still he is too hot-headed. He shook his head. If not for Sword Saint's sudden support towards him, he would have been thrown out of the conference room. Not only that he had offended nearly all the nobles and royal knights, soon they would be out for his neck. Then again, he shouldn't be weak as a bodyguard for one of the royal candidates and he seems to have support of the Sword Saint, he pondered. Soon the discussion came to an end, with all of the nobility and royal knights shaken to their core. To be continued. A.N. Give me your POWERSTONES. 27 comments 0 vote. 27 Aura. I got a guy to get the proofreading done, for free. He is getting advanced chaps. I am getting the proofreading done. I have read it. Everything that was talked between the characters is same. Only a few words here and there are added to make it more fluent. Tell me how it is. If you like it, then I am officially hiring him. ... Third Pav. Thank you, Reina. If it weren't for your support, I'm pretty sure the knights would have thrown me out by now, Subaru said with a faint smile. Reina gently took his hand. No matter what happens, I'll be always by your side, she said. Softly. He froze. Is this a confession? Subaru thought. But as he looked at Reina's gentle smile, warm yet unreadable, he couldn't quite tell what she truly meant. Meanwhile Reina was blushing inside her mind, her heart racing nuts due to her divine protection. Her face said otherwise, seeing Subaru not reacting much to her small confession. A quiet sadness stirred inside her heart. Whatever. I will do my best to make him fall in love with me, she thought with determination. Naya, you really did shock the whole crowd, Felix said as he entered the room and looked at Sword Saint holding Subaru's hand. I couldn't stand their stupidity, so I had to do that. With a quiet sigh, Subaru broke his grip as he slowly pulled his hand away. You will make a bad night, Naya, said Felix with a chuckle. Zero, you are here. Julius entered as he briefly scanned the 3 of them, before his eyes fixated on Subaru's figure. What's the matter, oh finest of knights? Subaru asked. What you did went against the very principles of knighthood. Julius said, his tone cold and unforgiving. Dude, I am not a knight. Subaru shrugged, making him hesitate. But I can't overlook your audacity, he said, his glare sharp. You proclaim yourself as Lady Amelia's equal while being her bodyguard. Lord Rosewall took you in, and yet you nearly tarnished their reputation. What do you want, Sir Julius? Reina came in front of Subaru, shielding him. Hiding behind Miss Reina is the proof of your cowardice. Julius snickered. Her hand went to the hilt of her sword, still sheathed at her side. Reina, move, Subaru said, his voice firm. At his words, she stepped aside, allowing him to move forward. Do you want me to apologize to nobility? Or the so-called royal knights? He asked in. Julius trembled with barely able to contain his rage. He unsheathed his sword and pointed at Subaru. I Julius Juculius challenges you to a duel of honor. I accept, he said, and Reina shot a glare at Julius, but Subaru placed his hand on her shoulder to calm her. Believe me, he murmured softly. She sighed and nodded and said, I believe in you, Zero. Meanwhile, this didn't go unnoticed by Felix, whose eyes narrowed. Naya, are they lovers? Julius meanwhile couldn't understand why Miss Reina would support someone like Subaru, who was so arrogant. Soon, they were in the stadium, with dozens of royal knights in the seats. Julius grabbed a wooden sword and so did Subaru. I will act as a judge, Naya. Enhancing your body with using magic isn't allowed. Using magic isn't allowed. Those are the rules. Felix announced with a mischievous grin. Start. Julius and Subaru's body became a blur as they charged at each other, their bodies left after images as their swords clashed against each other in rapid fury, striking dozens of times in the blink of an eye. They stepped back, stopping their assault. He is strong and fast. His speed seems to be my match as well. Julius quickly realized how strong Subaru was. Subaru's current strength had doubled compared to before, and his speed had noticeably increased. He had already gauged that Julius's strength without any enhancement from mana was a little bit stronger than he is, however his speed seemed to be slower. This is going to be tough. His sword skills far surpass mine, Subaru thought to himself. Unaware that the knight in the stadium was starting in shock. What was that? They were so fast. He matched Sir Julius. Impossible. Sir Julius. Defeat that arrogant man for us. The knights started cheering for Julius, who smiled and declared, I won't lose to the likes of you. However, a woman's loud cheer broke through their noise. Zero. Beat that purple-haired bastard black and blue. It was none other than Reina. The knights froze, and so did Julius as Subaru looked at the Reina cheering for him. He blushed slightly hearing her voice. Subaru grinned and took a battle stance. Julius got on guard and ignored Reina's cheering. Boom. A shockwave was released as Subaru broke through the sound barrier, unleashing relentless strikes at Julius, who fended his attacks off. Their movement became a blur. The ground below them cracked as they clashed against each other. Thankfully, their wooden sword was enchanted to be stronger than steel, otherwise it would have been destroyed long ago. The battle continued to be a stalemate for a few seconds before the first hit landed on Julius, who, gritting his teeth in pain, retaliated, hitting Subaru. Suddenly, out of nowhere, Julius's strength surged. With each strike, Subaru could feel the difference. Every blow was heavier, faster, more precise. He was stronger than before. Reina's eyes widened as Subaru started and she muttered, impossible. He isn't that strong. Felix grinned and said, Naya, after fighting nearly to death with Cecilus last time, his basic abilities have increased greatly. This was where Subaru and Reina predicted wrong. Reina's voice flattered as the knights' cheers became louder. She clenched her fists so hard that blood started seeping out. It's my fault. I gave Zero the wrong details about Julius. It is happening because of my mistake. She blamed herself, unable to bear to see him beaten. A knight fights for their lord's honor. A knight respects their lord. A knight never oversteps their boundaries. Julius roared with passion, each word hammered in by a strike as he unleashed a relentless barrage, driving his ideals into Subaru with every brutal blow. Suddenly he stopped hitting Subaru and pointed his sword at Subaru, who had bruised all over his body. Subaru almost fell on the ground and knelt. Surrender, Julius said with a smirk. Subaru spat saliva mixed with blood on the ground with a broken tooth and started laughing. The royal knights snickered. He was just talk after all. Why is he laughing? Did he go crazy? They conveniently ignored the fact that Subaru was in fact stronger than all of them except Julius. Subaru stood up and stared directly into Julius's yellow eyes. Motherfucker, I never said I was knight and never would wanna become one, Subaru said, earning glares from the knights. I admit, I can never be a good knight, Subaru admitted, earning smirks from the knights. However, the next moment he stared defiantly at the knight. However, I will be a better human than all of you fuckers. His words enraged them. Beat him, Julius, one shouted. A chill ran down Julius's spine, his instincts screamed danger. Without a second thought, he stepped back, putting distance between himself and Subaru. What is that? He stared at Subaru in disbelief as his body was covered in visible aura. Take this. Oh finest of knights, Subaru shouted, his aura moved around him, enveloping both him and his weapon in a powerful, radiant force. Subaru also felt another surge of energy moving through his body, as he distanced himself. The ground below him cracked and he vanished, creating a shockwave. His sword struck Julius diagonally, throwing him away like a cannonball. Julius's ribs shattered, his spine snapping under the force, and his body was sent crashing through the wall, hurtling away like a lifeless ragdoll. Subaru stood frozen, his body completely drained after the final strike. He began to fall, his strength failing him, but Reina was there to catch him just in time. She grabbed his back, making his entire body lean on her. You can rest now, she whispered gently in his ear, and he closed his eyes, falling unconscious. Silence. An uneasy silence permeated the room, while Felix ran through the broken wall to search for her friend. Impossible. He cheated. Yes. What was that? He obviously used magic. Cheater. How dare he cheat? Silence. Her cold voice shut them up. She took Subaru in a princess carry and looked at them. Miss Reina, why are you supporting that bastard? A knight demanded. First, he didn't cheat. I sensed no mana, whatever he used was no mana, something else entirely, she said. A divine protection perhaps. A knight raised his opinion. But it was decided no magic will be used. Another knight blamed Subaru. Nowhere in the rules it was stated he can't use divine protection, as long as mana is not used that satisfies the condition, she retorted, shutting them up. They wanted to say, yell, but standing before them was the sword saint. How are they supposed to go against a monster like her? Suddenly Felix entered carrying a bloody Julius on his back. This bastard. He nearly killed him. Felix glared at Subaru, however received a chill on his spine, as Reina glared at him. She turned back and said, I am taking Zero to his quarters, you shall take Julius to his quarters and explain everything to his master. She left the stadium as the atmosphere thick with unspoken tension. The knights once brimmed with pride now felt ashamed of their loss. ____. To be continued. AN. Tell me, how was the chap? 24 comments, 0 vote. 28 The Great Sword of Power. Comma. Third POV. Subaru's eyelids fluttered open. You're finally awake. Amelia weighed with relief in her voice. He turned his head and saw her gently holding his hand. Amelia, he mumbled, confused. Her expression darkened. Why did you accept a duel with Sir Julius? Lady Amelia, from what I've heard, he beat Julius so badly that the knight nearly died, Rem said. Amelia sighed, her grip tightening slightly. Yes, and now the Council of Wise Men and Lady Anastasia are demanding he be punished. Subaru sat up slowly, memories of the duel began flooding back. What was that? Another no two new abilities? He thought, narrowing his eyes. At first, he felt something surrounding his body, radiating around him in hundreds of meters in every direction. He tried to manipulate it, harnessing the energy to reinforce his body and the wooden sword. That time, he also awakened something else within, a wild, unbridled energy that surged through his entire body. He took control of it, using it to enhance his physical strength without relying on magic, and unleashed a devastating blow against Julius. Looking back, he realized maybe he had gone too far. What happened to Julius? He asked. Amelia answered. According to Sir Felix, several of his bones were broken, especially his ribs and spine. If Felix hadn't healed him in time, he might have been paralyzed, or worse, dead. Subaru took a deep breath upon hearing that. Julius had been far too persistent, especially considering he was behaving much better than the original. Still, it seemed to irk him. I am happy he isn't dead, that would have been bad, he thought. Despite how bad Julius treated him, he shouldn't receive death. Will he recover? He will, replied Reina, entering the room with a tray of food. I have made this mutton soup, fried pork with vegetables myself using my divine protection, she said as she placed the food on the table beside him. Sir Julius will make a complete recovery, there is no need for you to worry, she said, grabbing his hand to comfort him. He nodded, then looked at her. Thanks, but why did you go through the trouble to make the food for me when Rem could have prepared it? My divine protection not only makes food more delicious but also more nutritious, she said, a faint blush on her cheeks. And since you were so exhausted, I wanted to help by preparing it myself. Subaru became silent. Reina was really too kind to him, he even hadn't done anything special to deserve such affection from her. Tea, thank you, he replied as he took the spoon and tasted the soup. His eyes lit up, as the rich taste invaded his body, as if firing cannons and blasting every molecule of him, filling him with joy. This is delicious, he said, and she smiled. Really? Then I am happy. Rem remained silent, her gaze fixed on Reina. Could it be, is Miss Reina in love with Master Zero? She wondered, suspiciously. Reina was so close to Zero, preparing his meals and showing him such affection. Rem was bewildered to see Sword Saint acting like this. She had even heard that Reina stood up for Zero, despite knowing it would make enemies of the entire nobility and the royal knights. No one goes to such lengths for another without a special reason, and Reina wasn't the type to do so for any man. It was clear she was in love with him. Amelia meanwhile had no inkling of Reina's true feelings towards Subaru. Meanwhile, Puck appeared and said, Zero, you really caused a scene in front of the entire nation. Subaru chuckled. That I did. With you beating Julius that horribly, our relationship with the Anastasia camp has hit a freezing point, Rosewall said as he entered the room. Everyone turned toward him. I didn't interrupt anything, did I? Rosewall asked with a wide, mischievous smile. To think the FAAAMED Sword Saint would stoop to the humble task of cooking for someone, he added in a sly tone, eyes gleaming as they drifted toward Subaru's plate. Sir Rosewall, I'm very disappointed with how you acted during the conference, Reina said sharply, her eyes narrowing into a glare. Why didn't you stand up for Miss Amelia, and Zero? She demanded, her voice laced with accusation. Whatever I would have said would have been useless, Rosewall replied with a dramatic shrug. Reina clicked her tongue in irritation. Miss Reina, Amelia said gently, stepping in to diffuse the tension, while I do appreciate you standing up for me, I don't think the fault lies with Rosewall. After a bit more discussion, the room slowly quieted, and Subaru was finally left alone to rest. Julius, Anastasia murmured softly, gently stroking his cheek. Crush was also in the room, seated nearby, as it was Felix who had healed Julius. I thank you, Miss Crush. If not for Sir Felix, I don't know what would have happened. Anastasia said with a rare note of sincerity. You naturally have a favor from me, if it concerns money or business, just name it. They both understood. Despite Felix's pure intentions, their camps were still rivals. And now that Felix had aided them, a debt had been created. One they couldn't ignore. However, Anastasia made it clear that the favor could only pertain to money or business, nothing more. Crush nodded thoughtfully and said, I didn't know that man was this strong. His name's strange too, Zero, Ricardo added with a grunt. At first, I thought he was just a loud-mouthed fellow with a bit of cunning, but this changes everything, Anastasia said, her eyes narrowing. Crush nodded in agreement. He even forced the wise men to revise some of the royal selection's rules. And while you and I remain the most favored candidates, that half-elf, her image has shifted. Somewhat. Did he really not use magic? Ricardo asked, eyes narrowed with suspicion. Felix shook his head. I didn't sense any magic at all, and even the Sword Saint vouched for him. Sir Wilhelm told me that during his spar with Zero, he teleported, yet there was no distortion in mana, Crush added calmly, her words making everyone in the room pause. As if he hadn't used magic at all. Must be a divine protection. Ricardo muttered, shrugging but clearly unsettled. Anastasia folded her arms, her expression serious. Our biggest concern shouldn't be how strong that man is, but what his relationship is with the Sword Saint. Crush glanced at her, a knowing gleam in her eyes. I may have an inkling, she said, instantly drawing everyone's attention. He's the only disciple of the Sword Saint. According to Old Man Wilhelm, he himself admitted that his swordsmanship was taught by her. Crush declared, completely sure of her claim. Really, no one goes that far for a student, rather, she would have beaten him down for acting like he did, Anastasia countered, raising an eyebrow. Naya, is it just me, or does it seem like Sword Saint Ya is in love with him? Felix chimed in with a teasing grin, stunning the entire room into silence. Indeed, it should have been this simple. Crush said, clenching her fists in frustration. That does make sense now. If he's her mate, then of course she wouldn't hesitate to kill anyone who tries to harm him, Ricardo muttered, eyes widening as the pieces started to fit. Now this makes things worse, Anastasia said, her eyes narrowing as she processed the situation. If the Sword Saint is really in love with him, that means the half-elf has the support of Rosewall L. Mathers, the Sword Saint, and that boy himself. Indeed, Crush replied, her expression growing slightly horrified. Having the court magician and the sword saint on her side is like having half of Lugunika's battle strength backing her. Anastasia leaned forward, her eyes gleaming with determination. So, I have a deal, she said, capturing everyone's attention. We're far ahead of our competitors, but Sword Saint and that boy's involvement could change everything. Therefore, we must form a mutual alliance to tackle them head-on, Anastasia proposed, her voice firm and commanding. An alliance, you say? As of now, we're the biggest competitors and the best candidates, Crush pointed out, crossing her arms. The purple-haired girl nodded in agreement. Indeed, and with our alliance, we'll topple any threat from the other candidates. We'll form a contract so we can't betray each other, and in the end, our separate efforts will be the deciding factor in our victory. If we were to go against each other, the other three candidates, especially Amelia, would benefit, which we cannot afford, Anastasia concluded, her gaze steely. Very well, a fine proposition, if you ask me, Crush said after a moment, extending her hand for a handshake. Though the terms of the contract must be decided. With that, the alliance between the two strongest camps was officially established. Subaru pondered the power he had used. He closed his eyes and focused. Soon, he felt it, an unbridled energy flowing throughout his body. As he tried to control it, he found it difficult. However, diverting its flow was much easier. His fists began to glow, a surge of strength flooding his being. Then, he realized something else. An aura was continuously being released from his body, completely enveloping him. It was as if his very presence was radiating with power. He willed it to compress, and it obeyed. The aura, once sprawling hundreds of meters wide, began to condense within him, becoming visibly denser. The aura took on a rainbow hue, its colors shifting and blending, a clear sign that it was a mixture of various types. Undoubtedly, it was aura. A luminous radiation that surrounded people. The color and size of one's aura could vary, but it was universally understood to be a form of life energy, a manifestation of vitality itself. A spiritual counterpart to its physical counterpart, which he had also awakened, Ki. Both were undoubtedly powerful energies, and Subaru never imagined he would awaken them. After all, the very concept of aura or Ki didn't exist in the RE0 universe. Or rather, it had been overshadowed by the presence of mana and divine blessings. Then again, why didn't anyone ever awaken aura or Ki? He pondered, his mind racing through possibilities. After thinking for a bit, he realized there was a crucial condition for using both of these energies, robust vitality. Without a strong foundation of health and life force, neither aura nor Ki could be harnessed effectively. It was a demanding energy, one that required the body to be in peak condition to channel and control properly. Not to mention, one also needed an extraordinarily powerful and vast reserve of aura to even begin utilizing it properly. In the world of RE0, while people were undeniably strong, their strength primarily stemmed from divine protections and the manipulation of mana. Their power was granted or borrowed, not something inherently born within them. No one, aside from authority users, possessed enough vitality to surpass their natural lifespan. Even the famed sword saints, as legendary as they were, eventually succumbed to old age. Secondly, aura wasn't just about vitality, it was deeply rooted in one's spirituality. And that was an even rarer trait. Most people simply didn't meet the criteria. Their spirits weren't aligned, balanced, or strong enough to manifest something as raw and pure as aura. Even if I'm wrong, I shouldn't be far from the truth, he thought, his breath hitching slightly. He now had 4 distinct energy manipulation capabilities, each one covering an aspect of his being, erasing every weakness he once had. Psychic energy for the mind. Ki energy for the body. Aura for the spiritual body or soul. Magic for elemental and conceptual manipulation. If he could learn to control all of them properly. He started panting. Whether from excitement or anticipation, even he couldn't tell, the possibilities were endless. Even if I'm not as strong as Reina, I can become the second or third strongest after Satella. He thought, eyes widening with a mix of disbelief and ambition. And that's not even counting how versatile and powerful these energies truly are. Psychic energy, at its peak, could manipulate matter, bend reality, even shatter the laws of physics. Ki, if trained to levels seen in DBZ, could burst planets, even universes, with sheer physical force alone. He shivered, not from fear, but from the overwhelming potential brewing inside him. Aura, if honed to the level of characters from Tensura, could destroy even concepts, erasing ideas, laws, and existences themselves from the very fabric of reality. Magic, meanwhile, was practically limitless. It could bend, create, even redefine concepts. The only boundary was imagination and knowledge. And now, he had access to all four. Now that I notice, I'm still feeling a tug in my soul, a connection of sorts. He muttered, recognizing the same subtle pull he'd felt ever since his most recent death. Closing his eyes, he focused. The space around him distorted, rippling unnaturally, as a dark, viscous blob materialized before him. Without hesitation, he dipped his hand into it. He felt nothing, not even the sensation of his hand. Yet instead of panicking, he pushed deeper, driven by instinct. Suddenly, his fingers wrapped around something solid, something like a hilt. He pulled it out. A black, shimmering blade emerged in his hand. Subaru breath caught in his throat as he stared at it, eyes wide, hand trembling, not from fear, but awe. Power radiated from the sword in waves, like it was alive, resonating with his very soul. The air around it distorted faintly, space itself seeming to bend around the blade. It was a sword born of shadow and silence. A weapon capable of cutting through space itself, bending reality, and commanding the essence of darkness. It was the Yin sword. _____. To be continued. A.N. I have checked. The gapping in previous chapter was because the formatting was causing the issue, and to be honest, the chap in Inkstone isn't showing any issues, so yeah, I will have to delete the chaps and re-upload them to solve the issue. For now I am uploading the proofreaded chapter this time, not keeping the format same. I hope it solves the issue. Secondly, those of you who are complaining on MC being dense, first due to the divine blessing of Reina, her face doesn't shows any hint of shyness, blush, and emotion most of the time. Subaru is indeed suspicious about her feelings, and by now he is sure. We must remember, Reina is supposed to be friendless, and REINHARD in original became Subaru's friend very quickly and was willing to help him, though not as forceful as Reina. For the final time, tell me, how is the proofreading? Note that the proofreader has increased the word count. Tell me whether to keep him or not. If yes, then the chaps are going to be delayed till next week so he can do the proofreading. Give your power stones anyway, otherwise I will delay it by 1 week. Yes, that's a threat. 37 comments, 0 vote. 29 I need another great sword of power. Comma. Third POV. What the hell? Subaru muttered in disbelief, staring down at the weapon in his hands. He could feel it, an overwhelming power, dark and ancient, radiating from the blade. It wasn't just any sword. No, he instinctively knew what it was. It was the Yin sword. One of the strongest weapons in this entire world. He also instinctively understood its true power. The ability to cut through space itself. Before he could process any further, the door to the room exploded open with a loud bang, kicked clean off its place. 0. Are you okay? Reina barged in, but froze the moment her eyes landed on the sword in his hands. Her expression twisted into shock. That sword. Subaru flinched at her sudden entrance. What happened? He asked, concern in his voice. Reina glanced between him and the sword, then let out a sigh, rubbing the bridge of her nose. I sensed something intense, a powerful spatial distortion. I thought something bad had happened, so I ran here. You didn't think to teleport? Subaru raised an eyebrow. Reina's cheeks flushed slightly as she bit her lip. I panicked. Okay. He chuckled softly. You were worried about me. She nodded with a small smile. A warm feeling bloomed in his chest. Anyway, take a look at this weapon. Reina's expression shifted to seriousness. It's definitely one of the legendary swords, but which one? Subaru held it up with a gleam in his eyes. Undoubtedly, it's the famed Yin sword. Yin sword. I have some secret knowledge about it. If I'm not wrong, it can cut through space, she said. Damn, he whistled. How did you get that sword? She asked curiously, then added immediately, of course, if you don't want to tell me, it's absolutely fine. No need to hide. For a while, I've been feeling a certain tug, as if something was calling me. At first, I dismissed it, but after a while, when the feeling grew stronger, I focused and somehow summoned this sword, he explained to her, and she nodded. Impressive. To summon a legendary sword means your affinity with it is extremely high. Even my affinity with the dragon sword isn't that great, she said, looking at him with admiration. Hey, Reina, can you see if you can unsheath your sword, considering me as an enemy? He asked her, wondering if he was worthy. Okay, she nodded and grabbed the hilt of her weapon, pulling it out. It came out smoothly, unsheathing itself. The dragon sword was excited, and just by the virtue of being able to hold another legendary weapon, he was considered a worthy opponent to beat. Reina quickly sheathed her sword, but it trembled in displeasure. She snorted. There's no way I'm using you against Zero. Behave, or I won't wield you again, she said, and the sword calmed down. She turned to Subaru, smiling, while he stood there, speechless. She just threatened the dragon sword. Something that can cut concepts like butter, as if she were scolding a child, damn. That's why she's the goat. He thought. Let's see if I can unsummon this sword and summon it again, he said, attempting to unsummon it. He took a deep breath, eyes narrowing as the energy around him shifted. The yin sword melted back into his shadow like it had never existed, just a whisper of power in the air. He flexed his fingers, still feeling the weight of the blade in his hand even though it was gone. Okay, that was sick, feels like I'm the Shadow Monarch. He muttered to himself, trying to play it cool, but the grin spreading on his face gave him away. Who? Reina tilted her head, confused. Just someone who deals with shadows, he replied, not wanting to explain further. Her curiosity was left hanging, unaware of the legend she'd just missed out on. Anyway, Reina, there is a favor I want to ask. He looked at her seriously. She became serious as well. What is it? I will do anything you want me to, she confessed. Can you help me get the life sword? If I am not wrong, some noble has it, he asked. The famed sword cut through the opponent's very soul and destroy it. It was a very powerful weapon, and Subaru thinks he should have some affinity with it considering he has awakened his aura, though not as great as Yin sword. My affinity is Yin and Earth. Does the magic affinity I have get stronger as well? He thought seriously. Otherwise, it wouldn't make sense why I can summon this weapon now, when I couldn't before, he thought. Not to mention, he had only felt a connection to the weapon after dying at Rosewall's hands, an event that had unlocked his ki and aura, increasing his abilities. You want another one of the 10 swords of power? Reina asked casually. I can search for them using my divine protections. Subaru blinked in disbelief. Wait, all this time you could have searched for every lost sword of power and found them. Reina stuck out her tongue mischievously. Teehee. Well, even if I had found them, it would have been useless, as they can only be wielded by those deemed worthy, Reina explained. Not to mention, Reed is the strongest sword, so I never felt the need for another. Then how the hell did I die under her watch? Subaru thought, wondering if it was just his typical Subaru luck. Yeah, that's probably it. Subaru's luck is to die, he sighed in exasperation. Okay, so, can you get them? My divine protection of probability prediction tells me that you're only compatible with the life sword, she replied. The rest would require a sacrifice to bond with you. Well, I only have 2 hands, so, can you get the life sword for me? Subaru asked, feeling a bit ashamed of how demanding he sounded. Anything for my future lord, she replied with unhinged devotion. TN. Yo, it's your proofreader here. Hope you're vibing with the chapter as much as I am. If you catch anything off, hit me up. More's on the way, stay tuned. To be continued. AN. If the format still causes error. Anyway, whether this is the only chap for today or bonus chap totally depends on proofreader Kun. So yeah, go on a begging spree XD, I have like chaps up to 50. 33 comments 0 vote. Notice. ... It has been a while since I have made such a chapter. When was the last time? Perhaps during my Marvel Age of Raphael FIC. Yeah, it has been a long time. I will answer some questions that many of you don't know about this FIC and the reason you are having the problems. First, this FIC wasn't made by chap of 2k words. It was made while keeping the mind that you already know RE0, with each chap be 10k words. Yes, a proper chap of this FIC is 10k words, the pacing was done keeping that in mind, however when I upload it here, I have to trim it to certain limits so the ending isn't seen extremely abrupt. That's why many of the chaps are short. Secondly, this story takes place within RE0 multiverse, our Subaru isn't in the NB's world. To be honest, I will keep the world background same as much as I can, other than a few differences like Reina being a chick. Secondly, main character's introduction in story as an entirely new Natsuki Subaru has affected both past and present in various degrees, one of the reason that REINHARD is a chick. Unfortunately, RE0's story hasn't come to a conclusion, so we have been left totally unaware who is actually Sage Flugel, and if he is Subaru or not. Why which loves Subaru so much, etc., etc. I am forced to fill the gaps myself, and I have done so while keeping the big picture intact. You would have gotten a hint or clue of it by chap 7 of this story, the proper chap not trimmed one. Secondly, I will clear some doubts about this story. Why Subaru didn't ran away and helped Amelia when he knew he was going to die. Since many of you don't know RE0, apparently Rosewall knows about Subaru by his Book of Wisdom, and he needs Subaru to achieve his goal, since Subaru can essentially restart time itself. In the beginning he doesn't know how it works, thinking of it like a magic he can activate anytime. There were many reasons that forced Subaru to help Amelia, one of them was Rosewall. If he didn't help Amelia, Puck would have killed half of the capital and maybe beyond. Subaru wasn't sure if he could escape in time. Secondly, even if he escapes, what was he going to do next? He would be alone, stranded, in a world full of MA beasts, bandits, etc. He will die either way. Next, if he saves Amelia and let Felt die, then she will lose qualification of royal selection, and Rosewall will definitely not like this. Either he will throw them out, or threaten Subaru until he fixes them. Let's go in third scenario, if Subaru saves both Amelia and Felt, making them escape earlier. Then the Bowel Hunter will follow them, since it was literally her task. She will achieve it by whatever means, and even if Subaru saves Felt and Amelia, escapes from her. Going to the mansion means death by Rem, being hunted by Elsa. Fourth scenario, he saves them and leaves them. Rosewall will then force him to comply since he is madman who wants to bang his sensei and clap her cheeks. So yeah, main problem are countless. Subaru, being weak and stranded, decides to meet up with Amelia and save them, then follow to her mansion and fix the problems as well. He also found out that he was getting stronger, which gave him a lot of hope. Secondly, why do you assume Subaru is totally clueless about Reina's feelings? He is suspicious but isn't making a move, as he has many problems to deal with. He walks out of gate. Boom. The entire witch cult, which rarely show themselves, are on his doorstep. Yeah, also you might wonder how Subaru indirectly revealing his authority isn't counted no for Satella. First, she is little different, and he isn't telling the truth. Also, Satella did nothing despite Rosewall knowing half of the truth, so unless they get full truth, even then if they don't speak about it, Satella won't do anything. She isn't omniscient after all. She needs some conditions to know if people know the full truth. Reading Subaru's literal book of death is one of them. Next, you can go to fanfiction.net, Wattpad or Scribblehub to read the correct chapters of this FIC. You will enjoy them much better on those websites, however the chaps here will be uploaded early. That's all. Thank you for reading this. 16 comments 0 vote. 30 The White Whale. Comma. Third POV. Within the next 5 days, she successfully retrieved the life sword for him. It had been in the possession of a noble named Count Reedback. The moment Subaru grasped the blade, it recognized him, forming a bond on the spot. The sword resonated perfectly with his aura, amplifying it with ease. I should head out now. Amelia and the others have already returned to the mansion. Only Rem and I are still here, he said, giving her a sincere nod of thanks. I've been assigned a task by the Council of Wise Men, she said, her gaze steady. I won't be around for a few days, but if anything happens, anything at all, call me. I'll be there. He nodded and, without thinking, pulled her into a hug. She blinked in surprise but soon wrapped her arms around him, holding him gently. Thank you, Reina, he said, voice low. I swear I'll become someone worthy of being your lord. A soft smile touched her lips. I'll wait, for the day I can finally devote myself to you. His gaze lingered on her, caught in the depth of her blue eyes. He nodded, offering his farewell before stepping into the carriage. Then turned toward Rem. Let's go, Rem, he said softly. Rem gave a small smile and took the reins, guiding the carriage forward. As Subaru sat back, his gaze drifted to the two swords strapped to his belt, the ordinary fine sword and the life sword. His mind was set he would face the great whale without relying on any legendary weapon. Sure, using them now might help him defeat monsters, but what would happen in the future? When he'd face enemies like Pandora, who could manipulate reality at will? When it came to battling the archbishops of the witch cult, Subaru still wasn't sure if his death would create an alternate timeline. But he figured it was better to die now, while training, than face those foes in the future. The great whale, though terrifying, was a worthy opponent for him to hone his skills. It would allow him to train his aura, ki, and psychic energy all at once. Still, to be safe, he had written a letter. That way, if things went wrong in the alternate timelines, someone would know what happened. It's terrifying to think that my deaths might create alternate timelines, he thought. But there's nothing I can do about it. I know I'll die someday, if not now. It's better to die sooner than later. Fear, yes, he was afraid. But so what? The world wouldn't care whether he was brave or scared, only that he was strong. He had once believed that, even if he wasn't incredibly strong, having Reina by his side would guarantee his safety. However, after dying at Rosewall's hands, he realized how wrong he had been. Reina might be one of the strongest in the world, but she wasn't omnipotent, and he couldn't expect her to carry his burdens if he was incapable of carrying his own. I promise, after this, everything will change, he muttered. It was now a matter of kill or be killed. Rem stayed silent as she drove the carriage. As evening fell and they passed the flugel tree, a dense fog began to roll in. The weather changed suddenly, she commented, but Subaru just grabbed her shoulder and handed her a letter. Give this to Amelia, preferably Puck, and then run, he instructed as he stepped down from the carriage. What's going on, Master Zero? Rem asked, concern in her voice. Subaru drew his sword. The white whale is here. I'll hold it off while you deliver the letter to Amelia. That's an order, he said, his voice cold, commanding. The white whale, how do you know? She asked, her voice tinged with worry, but Subaru's resolve was clear. Run, and fulfill your duty as my maid. Rem bit her lip, nodded, and without further hesitation, she urged the reins, and the carriage surged forward. A chilling roar, moo-ah, echoed through the area, and a wave of mist sprayed toward him. He swiftly dodged it. Subaru took a deep breath and chanted, Ul Fura. A fierce windstorm erupted around him, sweeping the mist away and finally revealing the massive, menacing whale. It locked eyes with him, its gaze cold and calculating, as if seeing him only as prey. Ready to die, bastard. Subaru growled, channeling his ki to strengthen his body, then his aura to empower his sword. As the fog thickened and silence fell over the forest, Subaru stood still, his heart pounding. This wasn't just another fight. This was a declaration, a message to the world and to himself. I'm done running. He gripped his sword tighter. The life sword hummed faintly, as if responding to his resolve. He wasn't deluded, he knew this creature could kill him. But if he backed down now, when would he ever stop running? The white whale dove, soaring toward him with incredible speed. Subaru waited until the last possible moment before teleporting onto its back, just as it was about to engulf him. Ah! He screamed as he drove his sword deep into the whale, slashing as he quickly ran along its back. The white whale shrieked in pain, tilting its body at a sharp 90-degree angle as it flew upward. Subaru gripped the sword tightly, hanging on for dear life. Die, you bastard, he yelled, releasing a burst of fire bullets, Ulgoa. The flames scorched its back. Smoke rose from the whale's back as it let out a bone-chilling shriek. Subaru narrowed his eyes, steadying his breath, not from exhaustion, but focus. His aura pulsed around him, burning hot with resolve. He wiped the sweat from his brow, then froze. There were more. But just as it was ascending, two more whales appeared, swooping in and releasing thick mist. Shit. Subaru dodged the first mist attack, then the second, and barely avoided the third. But the fourth came too fast. He tried to teleport, but his mistake came too late. The mist spread through his body like icy poison. Subaru felt his senses fade, one by one. Sight, sound, pain, then, stillness. But just before everything turned dark, a single thought crossed his mind. If I die now, then next time, I'll win. Natsuki Subaru had died for the 7th time, *128. To be continued. A.N. Give me the Power Stones. Let's get in top 10 for this week. 33 comments 0 vote. 31 dying again and again bonus chap. ... Third POV. Gah. Subaru gasped for air, lurching forward in the carriage. Master Zero. What's wrong? Rem pulled the carriage to a halt, concern etched across her face. It's nothing, he muttered, steadying his breath as he glanced around, recognizing the familiar surroundings. Just before the white whale fight. TCH, convenient timing, he thought. A cruel smile tugged at his lips. Alright, you bastard, let's make this count. The memories of his last deaths burned like hot iron in his brain, but this time, he wasn't just fighting to survive. He was fighting to win. He closed his eyes for a moment and tested his energy, aura, mana, and ki. All three had been amplified, nearly fourfold. A noticeable leap in power. No doubt about it. Both the quality and quantity of my energy have doubled. That means the overall growth after each death is nearly quadrupled, he thought, gripping the seat lightly as the carriage moved forward. As Rem guided the reins, Subaru closed his eyes and focused. A moment later, a blade of solidified aura formed in his hand, shimmering, sharp, and overflowing with power. So I've finally learned how to shape my aura, not bad. With enough control, this could become deadlier than any forged blade. Time passed quickly. As the giant silhouette of Flugel's tree came into view and the mist began to gather, Subaru's expression hardened. He turned to Rem and handed her a sealed envelope. Take this letter and head straight back to the mansion. Don't look back, no matter what happens. That's an order. What's going on, Master Zero? Rem asked, confused. Subaru's eyes narrowed. The white whale is here. If you don't want to die, run. He leapt off the carriage, landing with purpose as Rem stared at him, stunned. Go, Subaru shouted at her. She stared at him, fingers trembling as she gripped the letter. She didn't argue. She knew better now. This wasn't the Subaru who joked and stumbled. This was Master Zero. Rem clenched her teeth, hesitated only for a moment, then snapped the reins. The ground dragon let out a sharp roar and surged forward, the carriage tearing away into the mist. A deafening roar thundered overhead as the white whale descended from the clouds. TCH, piss off. Subaru shot himself into the air with super speed, the shockwave rippling behind him. Suspended midair, he caught a full view of the white whale. Algoa. Subaru unleashed his strongest fire spell, releasing a massive fireball that struck the white whale, burning its upper body and causing it to roar in pain. Boo mmmmm. Instantly, two new white whales appeared and flew towards him. He teleported above the back of the original, but the whale shrugged its body, throwing him towards another. Subaru flipped midair, swinging his sword and piercing through the doppelganger's eye. Splash. Moo. The beast roared in pain and unleashed mist of elimination, which Subaru easily dodged. Die, you bastard, Subaru yelled, creating a massive scythe made of aura. He swung it with all his strength, striking the whale. The whale staggered midair from the sheer force of the attack, but Subaru didn't relent. He charged forward, slashing through its flesh relentlessly. As the second whale appeared, opening its massive jaw and diving toward him, Subaru teleported above it, swinging his scythe to sever its horn. The beast roared in agony before disappearing, but just as Subaru thought he had finished off one clone, another appeared, completely unharmed. You're kidding me, Subaru thought, staring at the new clone in disbelief. I need to kill the original one. Without wasting another moment, he shifted his focus to the whale hovering above him. In an instant, he teleported above it once more, gathering all his strength. The scythe shimmered with radiant energy, carving through the clouds like a god's punishment. The sky lit up as blood and mist sprayed like fireworks. He swung the scythe, throwing it with a fierce determination. The scythe spun thousands of times in a single second, slicing cleanly through the whale's head and down to its tail. Al-Huma, he shouted, conjuring a massive ice projectile and launching it at the whale. Suddenly, the whales below vanished, only to reappear right next to him. What? His eyes widened. He quickly unsheathed his sword, cloaking it in aura, and slashed at the approaching beast. The original white whale was injured by the blow, but Subaru found himself trapped between the two clones. With no choice, he teleported again, just in time to make them crash into each other. But the moment didn't last. The white whale's eyes rolled back, and its clones re-emerged, one diving at him from above, maw wide open, and the other surging up from below. What kind of bullshit is this? Subaru shouted in frustration, forced to teleport again. The whales mirrored him, chasing relentlessly. This is not a tag, you fat sea cow. He yelled mid-warp, teeth clenched. Stop cheating with your stupid missed hacks. This game of deadly tag continued for several moments, until he realized he'd been driven extremely high into the sky. Fall down, Subaru roared, forming another scythe made of aura. He hurled his sword toward the original and grabbed the scythe midair as he plummeted toward the clone. The moment he reached it, he swung. Boom! A blast echoed through the sky as the clone was slammed downward. But before he could breathe, another white whale appeared above and swallowed him whole. Damn it, he yelled as its massive jaws crushed down, tearing his body in two. His upper half plummeted through the air while his lower half vanished inside the beast's stomach. He was still conscious, racked with unimaginable pain. His nerves screamed in agony, his mind desperately clinging to consciousness. He couldn't breathe, couldn't scream, just watch the sky fall around him as his life slipped away. His spirits, panicked, fled his broken body and tried to cast spells. Only for the second whale to devour him completely. Natsuki Subaru has died for the 8th time, asterisk 256. Should I just use my legendary sword? He muttered, caught once again in the jaws of the white whale. This time, he barely survived, only to keep fighting and die once more. Natsuki Subaru has died for the 9th time, asterisk 512. Subaru gasped for breath, utterly exhausted. The white whale glared at him, its body heavily wounded. He had slain its clones dozens of times by now. But his strength had reached its limit. His ki and aura were completely drained. His body gave out, collapsing in midair. The strain from overusing his power was too much. Natsuki Subaru has died for the 10th time, asterisk 1024. To be continued. A.N. Give me the power stones. All you have left, give them to me. 35 comments 0 vote. Download the app for greater interaction. You can chat with me about my writing experience apart from the comments section. Acros_0. Download app now. 32. Phrasing. Third POV. He had died around 4 times to the white whale. Last time, if not for overdrawing his aura and ki, he would have killed it. Now, he finally understood the price of using them. Ki was life energy, it regenerated over time, but in the end, it was still his vitality. And though his vitality had increased thousands of times, if he overused it, especially his aura, it would still kill him. This time, I'll kill it in one hit, he thought, eyes sharp with resolve. Rem was already gone. The white whale appeared, roaring as always. But this time, Subaru didn't make a mistake. He teleported above it and formed a sword of pure aura in his hand. However, unlike last time, he didn't try to create a massive sword to cleave the beast in half. Instead, he focused, funneling both ki and mana into the blade, unleashing it all through the aura sword. A blue light pierced through the heavens, blasting away the clouds. It was visible from the capital and even Mather's mansion. Even Rem, who was driving away, saw the spectacle in awe. Master Zero, is that you? She whispered in disbelief. Meanwhile, this ends now, Subaru roared, swinging the sword downward. Fuck it, caliber RRRR. The beam shot straight through the white whale, cleaving it in half. For a moment, silence fell, before the beast crashed to the ground, its body split cleanly into two. With another strike, Subaru obliterated what remained of its life. He panted lightly. That strike alone had cost him a quarter of his ki. Thankfully, he still had 95% of his mana left. He landed on the ground with a thud, creating a small crater. Staring at the corpse of the white whale before him, awe and a deep sense of accomplishment filled him as he collapsed on his back. I did it, he whispered, tears welling up in his eyes. Hell yeah, he shouted in celebration. Master, you did it. A sudden voice called out, making him jump. Who? He muttered, manifesting his aura defensively, when 5 glowing bobs of mana emerged from his body. It is us, Master. The fire spirit replied. My spirits? He asked in disbelief. Yes. Out of nowhere, our abilities increased and we became true spirits. Said the water spirit. HMPH. Except Earth, who's got the strength of a newbie spirit, the 4 of us are nearly great spirits, with me being the strongest, the young spirit boasted proudly. Yes, that's the case, Master, said the wind spirit in a calm tone. Damn it, I was the weakest before, and even now I'm the weakest, the earth spirit mourned. The young spirit suddenly rubbed against Subaru's cheek and said, you lowlifes should all call him Master, but as the strongest, I will call him Father. She rubbed against him more intimately, visibly blushing. We want to call him Father too. The water spirit protested. Father. That sounds better, the fire spirit nodded enthusiastically. I love Father, the wind spirit said softly. Me too, added the earth spirit. HMPH. Mongrels, know your place. Only I deserve to call him Father. The young spirit snapped. When this concubine marries our father, you shall grovel at my feet. Subaru suddenly froze. What the fuck? He thought, as all 5 spirits started arguing, spells and elements flying everywhere like an indoor battlefield. Wait a minute, if my spirits get stronger too, then does that mean? His eyes widened in realization. He quickly reached out and grabbed the life sword. Its aura intensity has increased, at least 16 times. He exclaimed, stunned. He then summoned the yin sword. Its power had clearly amplified as well. I must have saved an entire world in my past life as Ayan to earn an ability like this, he muttered, rubbing his misty eyes. As for my Natsuki self, he must have been a bona fide devil. Typical Natsuki Subaru, berating himself as usual XD. Al Goa, Al Shia, Al Fura, Al Dona, Al Gewald. One by one, the spirits unleashed their most powerful spells, tearing through the area. The shockwaves from the magic collided, and the massive aftermath swept Subaru off his feet like a ragdoll. He flipped through the air before crashing into the muddy ground with a painful thud. The spirits froze midair, sensing a chilling pressure rising behind them. They slowly turned, only to see Subaru standing up, soaked and bruised, with an aura so heavy it sent chills through their cores. All of you, here. Now, he said quietly, but the calmness in his tone only made it more terrifying. The spirits trembled and floated over instantly, their glowing forms dimming as they lined up before him like scolded children. Listen carefully, he said, eyes cold. No more infighting. Got it. They all bobbed in sync, their lights flickering nervously like kids nodding in class. Then his face broke into a smile. That alone was enough to make them relax again, even young spirit, who had been clutching her metaphorical pride. Father is so scary when he's angry, she thought, puffing slightly. Also, Subaru added, raising a brow, you're not allowed to call me father anymore. Their lights dimmed immediately. Why? Did we do something wrong? The water spirit asked in a small voice, clearly disheartened. If this concubine has offended you, please forgive me for my transgressions, Yang spirit murmured, trying to sound dignified despite being visibly shaken. You created us in a way. So please let us call you father, the fire spirit said, her voice full of sincerity. The other spirits nodded eagerly, seeing their gloomy expressions. Subaru sighed, realizing he couldn't win. Fine, you can all call me father, he said, and the spirits erupted with joy, their lights shining brightly as they cheered. Now, calling you earth, fire, wind, water, and yang is stupid, Subaru said, catching them off guard. So I'll give you all new names. Names, the earth spirit exclaimed, his tone excited. Fufu, father, name this daughter. I shall bring you glory. Yang spirit chimed in, almost proudly. I want a good name as well, the wind spirit added, sounding hopeful. Subaru chuckled lightly and nodded. Let's start with the fire spirit, he said, eyeing the excited little spirit. The others clicked their non-existent tongues in mild dissatisfaction. Your name shall be Agni. It means god of fire, he said, and the fire spirit jumped in joy, her light flaring with excitement. Then comes water, Subaru continued, and the water spirit trembled with anticipation. Your name shall be Aqua. It means water or god of water, he announced, and the water spirit danced in joy, the ripples of her form glowing brighter. Next is wind. Your name shall be Sylphy. It means spirit of wind or wind itself, Subaru said, and the wind spirit smirked, clearly pleased. Now I choose earth, he said, his eyes narrowing slightly. Your name shall be Gia. It means Mother Earth, he added, and earth spirit puffed her chest, pride glowing in her light. HMPH. I may be last, but my name shall be the most glorious. Yang spirit declared, her tone dripping with pride. Yes, last is Yang, Subaru agreed with a smile. I shall name you Gloria, for you may bring immortal glory to me. With their new names, the spirits felt a sense of satisfaction, their lights glowing brighter than ever before. Father, what should we do now? You have defeated the white whale. Agni's voice had a mixture of admiration and awe. Subaru was still catching his breath from the battle, his heart pounding in his chest. He glanced down at his hands, now trembling slightly from the exertion. He felt the weight of victory, but it was still too early to feel relief. His mind was racing, thinking of what came next. There was no time to bask in glory when the witch cultists were still out there, waiting to destroy everything. We must move quickly, he muttered to himself, barely audible. There's no rest for the wicked. First, let's catch up to Rem and then deal with the witch cultists, Subaru replied, his expression serious. His focus shifted, now that the most immediate threat was gone. The spirits, with newfound power, felt the connection between them and Subaru deepen. This concubine loves being inside her father, Gloria's voice rang out, and Subaru nearly stumbled, his face flushing with embarrassment. Phrasing, Subaru muttered, his frustration clear. As Gloria's teasing only made Subaru more flustered. Fufu, father, why are you so flustered? She asked innocently, her voice dripping with playful mischief. Subaru sighed deeply, rubbing the back of his neck in exasperation. If you don't stop calling me that, I'll start to think you're serious, he said with a half-joking tone, though a part of him felt uneasy. Despite his growing fondness for the spirits, he wasn't used to such casual, affectionate banter. Maybe that was a side effect of being thrust into this strange world, but it felt comforting. In a twisted way, it helped him feel less alone. The spirits giggled, their laughter echoing in Subaru's mind, but he quickly shook off the awkwardness. He sighed and steeled himself. The battles ahead were far from over, and there was still much to do. With a determined expression, Subaru took his stance and began to run, the ground beneath his feet trembling with each powerful step. Boom. To be continued. A.N. Had to delete several paragraphs that proofreader Kuhn added, since that changed the personality of main character as whole. Sorry Penif_Amen, you overcooked this chap. Still after trimming, it is looking fine. If there are any problems do tell me. Also give me the POWERSTONES. Let's try to get in top 5. 38 comments 0 vote. 33 preparations for the Clash bonus chap. TN. Hey there. Hope you're ready for this one, let's dive in. Third POV. His current speed was nearly 24 times that of sound. The moment he ran, sheer friction caused his clothes to burn. Fuck. Aqua, help me, he said as he came to a halt and started patting his clothes, trying to stop the flames. Aqua summoned water and dropped it on top of him, putting out the fire and making him wet. Fantastic. Half of my clothes are now ash, he grunted and used aura to cover his body and clothes. If I become naked after this, he didn't finish and ran again, breaking the sound barrier. This time, his clothes didn't burn, and in a second, he stopped near the carriage. Master Zero! Rem exclaimed upon seeing him. His figure shimmered, cloaked in a faint rainbow glow from the intense aura still crackling around him. Behind him, the ground was torn apart, the aftermath of Subaru's sheer speed and force. Seeing the destruction he caused, he said with a casual shrug, I don't have any divine protection that lessens the damage caused by my speed. Haha. Rem stood there, staring at him in disbelief. The sheer force and speed required to leave that kind of devastation, even Ram with her horn wasn't capable of such power. Subaru climbed into the carriage, his movements smooth. Let's go. Master Zero, Rem asked, still in awe. Was that blue light you? And what happened to the white whale? That light show? Yeah, that was me. As for the white whale, it's dead. Lying in 4 pieces on the grass, he answered flatly. Rem gasped. Why you slayed the white whale? She couldn't believe it. That monstrous creature had been a plague for over 400 years. Countless warriors, even the previous sword saint, had failed to defeat it. Yeah, you'll see its corpse later, if it's still there. For now, we've got bigger problems, Subaru replied, his tone shifting to something more serious. Bigger problems? Rem asked, confused. The witch cult. They're targeting Rosewall's territory, he said matter-of-factly. Rem's eyes darkened with hatred. The witch cult. Why would they attack? Because for them, the white whale is a sort of pet. So, the witch cult is involved, Subaru said, and Rem shuddered, the full weight of the situation sinking in. I will kill all of them. You can help, of course, but I'll handle the Sin Archbishops, he explained to her, and she nodded. As you command, Master Zero, she replied, her role as his personal maid still intact. Her perception of him had shifted. She had heard of how he defeated Julius, one of the strongest knights in Lugunica, and had seen him hold his own against Wilhelm, the sword demon. Even without Lady Reina's intervention that day, she knew she would have lost. Nah, she would have decimated him before getting decimated. She also felt guilty for her earlier assumptions. In truth, Rosewall, too, bore a similar scent to that of the witch cultists. The knowledge that Subaru was carrying something as dangerous as the witch's curse made her look at him with newfound respect. She drove the carriage as he spoke. Give me the letter I gave you. She handed it back to him. He opened it, then burned 5 of the 6 pages, leaving only the first. He wrapped it up again. Hey, can any of you send this letter to Amelia? He asked his spirits, leaving Rem confused as to whom he was talking to. While we cannot take physical form, we can use magic to lift it, said the wind spirit. Father. Sylphie would be the best choice to send the letter. She's the fastest of us, and her element won't harm it, Agni added. Master Zero, who are they? Rem asked, keeping her eyes focused on the road. Mongrels, we are his proud children and contracted spirits, said Gloria, her voice laced with pride. Subaru's eyebrows twitched upon hearing Gloria's words. She sounded like a combination of Gilgamesh and Priscilla, all wrapped up in one. Master Zero's quasi-spirits have already become true spirits. Rem gasped in surprise, her breath catching in her throat. He is so strong, she thought, a sense of awe overwhelming her. Give me the letter, Father. I remember Amelia and the path. I'll deliver it to her in the Great Spirit, Sylphie said, taking the letter from Subaru. The letter was soon encased in an orb of swirling wind, and with a powerful gust, Sylphie shot into the sky, breaking the sound barrier with her wind magic. Before long, they arrived in Arlem village, and the night had already settled in. Rem, stop the carriage. Let's evacuate the village, Subaru instructed as he hopped down from the carriage. Did you see that pillar of light? One villager whispered. Yes. It reached the heavens. What was that? Another added. Was it Lord Rosewall doing? The villagers had gathered outside, discussing the strange pillar of light that had illuminated the sky moments earlier. Perfect. This was exactly what Subaru had hoped for. He stood on the fountain's wall in the village center and raised his voice. Excuse me, everyone. The villagers turned their attention to him, curiosity piqued. The village chief stepped forward, recognition in his eyes. Sir Zero, it's you. Subaru gave a small nod and said, now listen to me, everyone. As you know, I am Lord Rosewall's guest, and currently, I am acting as her bodyguard. The pillar of light you saw earlier in the sky. That was my doing. I was battling the white whale, he explained, his voice steady and authoritative. White whale. Is he telling the truth? Isn't he a friend of the Sword Saint? He must be strong, right? Still, can we really believe him? The villagers began murmuring among themselves, doubt and tension rising in the air. Subaru raised his voice, firm and commanding, everyone. Focus. I have reason to believe the witch cult was behind the white whale. Which means, they might attack this village next. Gasps and cries broke out. Witch cult. Here. Why would they come all the way here? It's that half-elf's fault, isn't it? If anyone should leave, it should be her. Why should we suffer because of her? Accusations flew. Panic mixed with prejudice. Subaru's expression darkened, his cold gaze sweeping over the crowd. Idiots, fools, utterly stupid, he muttered under his breath. Without another word, he closed his eyes and summoned a sort of aura. It gleamed with a radiant light that drew every eye. In one smooth motion, he leapt down from the fountain's wall and struck the blade into the ground. A blinding pillar of light burst upward, piercing the sky. The clouds above scattered from the force, as if the heavens themselves had been split open. Gasps of awe, fear, and silence followed. When the light faded, Subaru spoke, voice sharp as steel. I'll say this only once. I have no obligation to protect you. The only reason I'm standing here, willing to fight the witch cult, is because of Amelia. His eyes swept over the stunned villagers. So the next time you dare speak ill of her, remember who's risking their life for yours. I am her friend, and she cares about your safety. Subaru's voice echoed through the crowd. You mock her, accuse her, shun her, and still, she chooses to care for you. The villagers flinched, guilt washing over their faces like a cold wave. He took a breath, then spoke again, firm but composed. I'm requesting that you evacuate, preferably to the Mather's mansion, where you'll be safer. But if you refuse, then consider that request an order. Uneasy silence followed. One man hesitantly raised his hand. But how can we be sure we'll be safe, even if we evacuate? Subaru gave him a warm smile, but to everyone else, it felt like a chill had swept over the square. You'll be as safe as a mouse in front of a cat, if you stay here. The man went pale and lowered his hand. I believe in Sir Zero. Petra stepped forward, her voice small but clear. He saved us from the Woolgram beasts. Subaru blinked, then gave a faint chuckle. Thanks, Petra, how ironic. A kid being smarter than the rest of you. He patted her head, and she turned red, trying to hide her smile. A.N. Lolimancer strikes again. HMPH, I believe in him too, the village chief added, stepping beside her. All right then. Subaru clapped once. Everyone, grab whatever's important and gather here. Be quick, we don't have much time. The villagers finally began moving, urgency rising in their steps. Just then, two figures appeared through the crowd, Ram, her gaze sharp, and Amelia, slightly out of breath but calm. Zero. Amelia called out, hurrying over. Puck floated beside her, his sharp eyes glancing around. Sylphie, meanwhile, flew up and landed gracefully next to Subaru. Father, I completed the task you gave me. Sylphie reported with pride. Subaru crouched slightly and gave her a pat, pulling her into a hug. Good girl. She let out a happy squeal as he rubbed her head, practically glowing with joy. The other spirits behind him exchanged envious glances. A.N. They are literally balls of mana, how do they even give envious glances? Puck, however, narrowed his eyes. Boy, just what is your spirit affinity? He muttered in disbelief. He could feel it, an overwhelming connection to the spirits, far beyond anything he'd ever sensed. It wasn't just high, it was unnatural. At least 1,000 times stronger than Amelia's. He'd noticed it briefly during the royal conference, but had dismissed it, and now Subaru had spirit affinity stronger than what he had back in Capital. No wonder these quasi-spirits became full-fledged spirits. Are you even human? Puck asked, eyeing Subaru suspiciously. Puck, Amelia scolded gently, but her concern was clear. Zero, are the witch cultists going to attack us? Subaru turned to her calmly. Yes, the witch cult is moving. I've confirmed it. I also killed the white whale. It was likely acting under their influence. The crowd around them stirred with unease. Amelia's expression hardened. Then we really do need to evacuate the village. I was planning to take them to the mansion, Subaru replied, but if there's a safer place, I'm open to suggestions. Master Zero, Ram spoke up. Lord Rosewall ordered the villagers to be sent to the sanctuary. Rem nodded beside her. Yes, it will be safer there, and it's already prepared. Subaru paused for a moment, thoughtful. So he's still playing that card. Fine. The sanctuary is a good option, and Amelia needs to go there anyway. That place holds the key to her growing as a person. His gaze shifted to Amelia for a moment. Their bond was stronger than it had been in the original timeline, but even now, he could sense a wall inside her. A past she had yet to accept. Without facing it, she'd never grow beyond her hesitation. And if things go south, I can always call in Reina. I've got 2 of the swords of power now, that alone changes the whole game. A small smirk tugged at his lips. Honestly, I almost feel sorry for the bastards who show up next. After only 4 deaths, Subaru Natsuki, no, 0, was already becoming one of the most dangerous existences in the world. How are we supposed to fight the witch cult? We don't even have an army. Amelia asked nervously, her voice trembling just a little. Subaru looked at her, then raised one hand dramatically. Don't worry, for I am here. He struck a confident pose. Before anyone could respond, shadows began to stir at his feet. His own shadow deepened, stretching unnaturally across the ground as tendrils of darkness coiled upward. A black blade slowly rose into the air, radiating an ominous aura. A chill ran through everyone's body. He caught it with ease. The yin sword, Puck gasped, floating back instinctively. His usually calm demeanor was shattered in an instant. The sword of darkness, one of the 10 swords of power. Ram whispered, her face pale. The legends said only the chosen could wield such weapons, and those chosen were never ordinary. She turned toward Subaru. No, 0, her eyes wide with disbelief. If that's true, then you've become one of the strongest existences in the world. Subaru gave a half smile, not confirming it, but not denying it either. And if they only knew the blade on my belt is another legendary sword, hey. Let's save that reveal for later, he mused silently, amused by the thought. I'm strong, he said simply, stepping forward. Strong enough to fight the witch cult on my own. I've already slain the white whale, the blue pillar of light you saw earlier. That was me. He stopped in front of Amelia and gently placed a hand on her head, ruffling her silver hair. You don't have to worry about the fight, Amelia. Just focus on getting everyone to safety. I'll take care of the rest. Her breath hitched. The warmth of his hand, the quiet certainty in his voice, it made her heart flutter. A blush crept up her cheeks, and her violet eyes met his. TN. Amelia's cheeks are as red as Subaru's aura. Haha must be a sign. That dependable figure, that calm confidence, it etched itself into her heart without her realizing. Puck narrowed his eyes the moment he saw the faint blush on Amelia's face. With a small burst of mana, he flew forward and gave Subaru's hand a sharp kick. Hands off my daughter, boy, Puck growled, floating between them protectively like a furry guardian. Subaru blinked, withdrawing his hand with a sheepish smile. Amelia glared at Puck in embarrassment. Puck, that wasn't necessary. Okay, father, Subaru muttered dramatically, rubbing his hand. Anyway, I'll leave her in your care. Of course, she is my daughter, Puck snorted, his tone almost mocking. Subaru smirked. Yeah, my bad. Then, turning toward the gathered villagers, his expression shifted to one of commanding calm. All right, everyone. Slight change of plans, he announced. By the orders of Lord Rosewall, you'll all be evacuated to the sanctuary. You'll be under the protection of Ram, and Lady Amelia. There was a bit of murmuring, especially when Amelia's name was mentioned, but not a soul dared to voice doubt aloud. Not after seeing that insane sword beam Subaru had fired into the heavens. The fuck it caliber, as it was quickly dubbed in hushed whispers, was burned into their minds. While there were those still wary of the half-elf, the support of both Lord Rosewall and this terrifying, dependable young man named Zero was more than enough to seal their approval. Very well, begin your evacuation, Subaru said. And say, there won't be any issues walking in the dark, right? One of the older villagers chuckled nervously. We have lanterns, sir. We'll manage. Good. Subaru nodded. Then with a teasing grin, he added, because if you trip and break something important, you'll just become more luggage. The villagers gave weak laughs, and the tension in the air finally began to ease. It would have been better if there were more people to help with the evacuation, Ram muttered, arms crossed as she observed the crowd forming. Subaru tilted his head. More people. Oh right. He raised his hand and calmly spoke. Agni, Aqua, Sylphie, Gia, Gloria. 5 distinct flares of light shimmered around him, forming into graceful, radiant figures, each representing a different element. The villagers gawked as the spirits emerged one by one from his body, shimmering with mystical energy. You guys help with the evacuation and follow Amelia's instructions. Keep everyone safe. But father, Gloria pouted, pressing her fan against her lips in exaggerated sorrow. This concubine wishes to incinerate mongrels alongside you. Subaru chuckled, gently patting her silver hair. I know. But trust me, helping them is helping me. If the villagers are safe, I won't have to hold back when I start slicing cultists like onions. Then, I'll burn them in spirit, Gloria sniffled, floating toward Amelia. The others, Agni crackling with flame, Aqua gliding like a ripple, Sylphie darting playfully through the air, and Gia calmly hovering with grounded grace, all nodded and moved into position. The villagers looked on, jaws slack. He's a spirit arts user. Not just a spirit arts user, he commands 5. And they listen to him. Petra's eyes sparkled like stars. Sir Zero is amazing. As the last of the villagers gathered their things, the wagons were loaded, and children were rounded up, Amelia stepped forward. She wrapped her arms around Subaru tightly without warning. Promise me, she whispered, voice trembling, promise me you won't die. Subaru blinked, caught off guard by the sudden hug, but smiled gently as he returned it. This time, nah, he replied with that ever-confident grin. You'll see me again before dinner. With that, they parted. Amelia hesitated a second longer, then turned back to help lead the villagers, flanked by Ram and Rem, with the 5 spirits floating protectively around them. As their figures grew smaller on the dirt road, Subaru let out a long sigh. Now then, he muttered to himself, resting a hand on the hilt of the yin sword. It's time to wait, and welcome our guests. _____. To be continued, TN. And that's a wrap for this chapter. Let me know what you think. Always curious to hear your thoughts. AN. I have made small changes in this proofreader chap. Yeah, I am basically proofreading the proofread chap, however, except a few lines everything was fine. Also, I changed the divine annihilation to fuck it caliber, that was the OG, and I am keeping that. To be honest, the former sounds better, however, the fuck it caliber was written to show Subaru's frustration, not him glazing with cool name. That's all. I hope you like the chap. We are in top 7 by the way, let's see if we can get in top 5. 40 comments 0 vote. 34 cucked Patelgus. Third POV. It was the next day. The witch cultists had finally arrived near Arlem village. When Subaru appeared before them, they immediately halted, bowing in unison, assuming he was an archbishop. Wait a minute, stay where you are, he commanded, and they obeyed without question. There's something I want to check, he said, flashing an evil smile. They didn't respond. Then, without warning, all of them clutched their heads in pain, screaming in agony. For a few seconds, it was a mess, until they eerily froze. A moment later, they stood up, still, silent, robotic. Subaru smirked. Oh, it worked. He had used another of his psychic abilities, telepathy. Not just to communicate, but to break their minds. Now, they were nothing more than puppets. His puppets. Peering through their memories, he quickly located 5 of the 10 fingers of Sloth. Good. Follow me, he ordered. They nodded stiffly, falling into line behind him like lifeless dolls. One by one, he broke into their minds, and before long, half of them, including 6 of the 10 fingers, were already under his control. He had silently given them a command. The moment he sends a psychic pulse, they would turn and attack the rest of the witch cult. Then, a familiar, deranged voice rang out. Welcome, fellow believer. I am Sin Archbishop representing Sloth, Patelgus Romani Conti. A maniacal grin twisted his face as he tilted his head, twitching. You don't happen to be Pride, do you? He asked. Subaru chuckled. No, nah, Neen, I'm not Pride, I'm Envy. Envy. Patelgius's smile twitched, and his eyes narrowed instantly. Introducing myself properly, Subaru spread his arms wide, a mocking grin on his face. I am Sin Archbishop, representing Envy, 0. Patelgius's face contorted. Impossible. She loves me more. You're lying. Lying. I'm the one the Witch of Envy loves most, you know. Subaru said, his voice dripping with arrogance. I've even met her. She hugged me, panted like a dog before me. He leaned in with a smirk. She even kissed me, over and over, while whispering how much she loves me. Blood poured from Patelgius's mouth as he bit his fingers in agony. Sloth was now experiencing the pain of a man whose beloved had been natard in real time. He roared, summoning dozens of unseen hands in a frenzy. But Subaru dodged them effortlessly. Patelgius's eyes stretched wide in horror. Impossible. How can you see them? How can you see her love for me? Only I should be able to see them. Subaru gave a lazy shrug. Simple. Like I said, she loves me more, cuck. That word broke something inside him. Dieeee. He shrieked, summoning hundreds of unseen hands in his madness. But Subaru didn't flinch. He raised the yin sword. With a single swing, the space before him fractured. A devastating blow followed as space and time tore apart from the slash, disintegrating all the unseen hands in an instant. Alminya. The moment the yin incantation left his lips, Sloth's body froze. A beam of light hit him, and in a second, his whole body turned into crystal, frozen in glowing, silent agony. He knew Patelgus was once a great spirit, and that the sloth witch factor was the reason behind his madness. Subaru wanted to help him recover someday, but until then, he had to keep him sealed. So, he used the strongest Minya spell, freezing even his soul in crystal. The witch cultists had already been commanded to kill each other. Soon, the entire cult would be wiped out. I wonder, can I absorb witch factors like the original Subaru did? He thought. But then, cracks spread across the crystallized sloth. You've got to be kidding me. Subaru muttered. A moment later, something slammed into his consciousness. Subaru stood face to face with Sloth, the deranged archbishop now inside a strange realm. The ground beneath them was pure white, and the sky above glowed a haunting orange. It was Subaru's mindscape, his inner world shaped by his soul. Impossible. Why can't I control you? Sloth howled, clawing at himself, blood staining his already twisted face. Why does she love you more? He screamed, voice cracking with madness. Subaru let out a sigh. You've got strong mental willpower for someone so far gone. You want to see her that badly? Fine. Just as he began to prepare, he muttered, I can return by da. But before he could finish, everything around him froze. Darkness swallowed the world. The air turned heavy, cloaked in purple-black fog. Subaru and Sloth were pulled into a new space. Across from them stood a silhouette, her form barely visible through the mist. Sloth's eyes widened in disbelief as he turned and saw her. My love, he whispered, tears pooling in his eyes. His arms stretched out in desperation, aching to feel her embrace. I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you, she repeated over and over, voice emotionless, robotic, like a broken doll stuck on one phrase. A smile crept onto Sloth's face, blissful and hopeful, however she ignored him. She wasn't reaching for him. She walked right past Sloth, without a glance, without a word, as if he didn't exist. He stood frozen, disbelief twisting his face, while she came to a stop just in front of Subaru. Subaru couldn't move. His body was locked in place by the sheer weight of her presence, his heartbeat thundering in his chest. This wasn't Satella. This was her, the Witch of Envy. The monster who plunged the world into chaos 400 years ago. The demon king no hero could defeat. The being who slaughtered millions without hesitation, whose cruelty extended even to children. The witch who had to be sealed away by the three great heroes, not slain, for even death couldn't claim her. She was that same terrifying figure. Yet before Subaru, she wasn't a monster. She was a girl starving for affection, his affection. Subaru gulped. Slowly, cautiously, he lifted his hand. She reached out first, gently taking his hands in hers and guiding them to her cheek. Then, with a soft purr, she nuzzled into his touch like a cat, violet black eyes gazing at him with bottomless love. I love you, 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 she whispered over and over again, her voice trembling like a broken record stuck in obsession. Subaru exhaled slowly, steadying himself. He took a step closer. Then, gently, he reached out his left hand toward her head. She halted, eyes wide, as if the world itself had paused. And when his hand landed softly on her head, pat, her breath hitched. She started panting, like a dog. Then without warning, she threw her arms around him. Mine, 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 she cried, her voice filled with desperate glee as she buried her face in his chest, nuzzling him, inhaling his scent, clinging to his aura like a lifeline. Off to the side, Patelgus stood frozen, shattered. The woman he adored, worshipped, was now clinging to another man like a lovesick animal. His pupils shrank, his jaw quivered, and finally, his knees gave out beneath him. Tears streamed down his face as he screamed, why? 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 But envy didn't even glance his way. To her, the world held nothing of value, except him. Except Subaru. And just then, an idea sparked in Subaru's mind. A dangerous, reckless idea, but maybe, just maybe. It's risky, but it might work. He narrowed his eyes and spoke, lacing his voice with just the right amount of disdain. Envy, I heard you love that man. She froze mid-snuggle. No, 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 she mumbled, her tone rapidly spiraling into panic. Really? Subaru asked coldly. Then prove it. Separate his witch factor from his soul. Without hesitation, the air darkened. Thousands of shadowy hands surged forth, writhing like serpents, and violently seized Sloth. Patelgus screamed in agony as one massive, spectral arm reached into his chest, then tore his witch factor out like ripping a ghost from a body. Arg! Patelgus screamed, his voice raw with agony before his body went limp, and he passed out cold. Envy's hands tossed him away like trash, ejecting him from the shadow garden without a second thought. Good girl, Subaru said, trying to keep his composure. She squealed at his praise, breathless. Then, like a dog begging for affection, she started panting again and stuck out her tongue as if she was about to lick him. Hey, stop, it's time for me to go, he said, clearly disturbed. If I get a beautiful woman like Satella as my waifu, I am never letting her go. But she didn't listen. Her tongue slid over his fingers instead, her eyes never leaving him. Subaru, feeling the situation spiraling out of control, quickly suppressed his aura. A pull shot through his core, and the next second snap his soul snapped back into his body, leaving the Witch of Envy behind. She stood there, eyes wide and lips trembling. Then she pouted. Yandere eyes. _____. To be continued. I might have cooked the chap, but proofreader Kun added the seasoning. Bro seriously made biryani with the ingredients I provided, and the half-cooked chap. The entire chap was same, except a few lines. Worded better, conservations same though, which didn't spoil the original chap. All hail Penif_Amen. By the way, how op do you think Subaru is? Meanwhile, guess what his authority of greed, authority of lust, authority of sloth will be. Tiering have been done according to the source material. Tape said 99% of the verse caps at moon level. Even Sekhmet the second strongest after Satella and Cecilis cannot destroy moon. Reed can destroy moon, however he isn't too strong. Reinhard and Satella can destroy the entire world, which is just a continent floating in space. A flat world. So yeah, vote for Power Stones by the way. 41 comments 0 vote. 35 the Mr. Do not infringe my rights bonus chap. ... Third POV. Subaru gasped, lungs heaving as his senses came back online. His eyes scanned the ruined landscape before something caught his attention, a faint shimmer on the ground. A glintstone. Inside it, was a great spirit. He blinked. How the hell did that even form? He questioned internally. It was way too convenient. Maybe it was due to his broken spirit affinity. Or maybe, just maybe, that's how the world worked around him now. He decided not to question it. So, that was the Witch of Envy, huh? He muttered to himself, gripping the stone. The pressure of the great spirit inside pulsed faintly against his palm like a heartbeat. And then, his mind flashed back to her licking his fingers with maddening affection. Damn, she's hot, he said under his breath, and immediately questioned his sanity. Purple skin, ethereal eyes, presence of a walking apocalypse. Yep, his screws were definitely loose. Suddenly, his senses flared. Two powerful sources of miasma, both approaching, fast. Roughly a kilometer away. No time to waste. He pocketed the glintstone, cloaked himself in his aura, and with a crack of displaced air, burst past the sound barrier. In less than a second, he arrived. And there they were, two monsters in human form. Regulus Corneas, the Sin Archbishop of Greed, an arrogant man with gleaming silver hair and a smile that screamed superiority. Beside him stood Libadenkaitos, Sin Archbishop of Gluttony, eyes wild and hungry, licking his lips like a beast starved for taste. Subaru's eyes narrowed. Things just got interesting. AKA, Mr. Don't infringe on my rights, and Mr. I eat everyone's memories and existence, Subaru muttered, glancing between the two. Who might you be, Sue? Lai asked, startled by Subaru's sudden arrival. His eyes darted to the broken trees behind Subaru. The entire path had been demolished. Subaru had arrived like a storm. Introduce yourself, Regulus demanded, his voice sharp with arrogance. Subaru grinned and spread his arms theatrically. Very well, I am the Sin Archbishop, representing Envy. 0. Both men froze. You are Envy, Sue. Lai tilted his head, confusion twisting his features. Regulus, however, only scoffed, satisfied as long as his right to introductions had been met. I am the Sin Archbishop of Greed, Regulus Corneas. The most fulfilled existence in this entire world. Wait, Regulus, he's lying. Lai hissed. The Witch of Envy still lives. How can he be her Archbishop, Sue? Regulus, eyes narrowed, dangerous. You're infringing on my rights to lie about me, when I have just given my name truthfully. He stomped. The soil beneath his foot launched forward like missiles, tearing toward Subaru. But Subaru simply sidestepped, calmly, effortlessly. You two are the ones infringing my rights, Subaru said with a lazy smile. I just slayed the white whale. I just sealed sloth. I deserve some peace, damn it. But now I'm stuck here playing with two more maniacs. Air froze for a moment, Lai blinking rapidly, Regulus grinding his teeth. A storm was about to begin. You killed Whitey, Sue. Lai narrowed his eyes. How dare you consider yourself superior to me? Do you not know that I am the most fulfilled existence? I am the most perfect. You even dodged my attacks. You are inferring. Suddenly Regulus froze. Lai stopped dead in his tracks. Even Subaru stood motionless. In a sudden burst of anger, Subaru had summoned the yin sword and hurled it forward at Mach 20. The blade cleanly sliced through Regulus' arm, severing it completely. It hit the ground with a dull thud. There was no blood, no pain. It simply happened, as if space and time themselves had been cleaved. Damn, Subaru muttered, shocked at the result. He had expected the sword to blast Regulus a few hundred meters away, not actually separate his limb. Impossible, echoed Lai Batenkaitos, his voice trembling. Impossible. Wait, my hand. I can't feel it anymore. Regulus shouted, grabbing his detached limb and desperately trying to reattach it. But no matter how hard he tried, it remained disconnected. Though there was no pain, no blood, the horror in his eyes was unmistakable. Meanwhile, Subaru's mind kicked into overdrive, his thought process now running 10-24 times faster than normal. Let's see. The yin sword can cut through space. Yin magic deals with time-space manipulation. Space and time are deeply connected, so now that the yin sword is 16 times stronger, it can cut through both space and time. He thought, his eyes wide in disbelief. On top of everything else, the yin sword could even cleave through shadows. Subaru had just realized how utterly broken it was. He smirked. At this moment, Regulus Corneas was royally screwed. Die, 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 Regulus snapped, madness warping his face as he kicked the earth. The ground ruptured, sending chunks of dirt rocketing at supersonic speed. Well, someone having a bad day. Subaru calmly summoned the yin sword back into his hand, it flickered into his grip like a loyal servant. With a blur, he sliced through every projectile midair, each cut echoing with the hum of space itself being torn. Then he vanished. His body accelerated so fast it detonated the air around him into a shockwave, and in the blink of an eye, he was behind Regulus. Slash. And then the Sin Archbishop of Greed's body collapsed, his limbs severed, torso split cleanly down the middle. Like a puppet with its strings cut. His eyes bulged in disbelief, mouth agape, but no sound came. The voice of greed, silenced. Lai stood paralyzed, watching the strongest of the Sin Archbishops reduced to little more than butchered meat. Lai Batenkaitos, was it? Subaru turned to her with a cold glint in his eyes. Let's strike a deal. You walk away alive, and in return, you tell me where Regulus kept his wives. The Archbishop of Gluttony flinched, visibly trembling. Oh, one condition. You must vow not to harm me. Subaru clicked his tongue. He had no intention of letting him go forever, but for now, he'd play along. He considered using his psychic powers to extract the information directly, but that risked dragging his soul into the corridor of memories, and encountering her, the third Sin Archbishop of Gluttony. Louis Arneb was not a gamble he wanted to make right now. Fine, he said slowly. Let's make a vow. Wait, do I have to say my real name? Nope, Lai chirped. As long as your intent is true, the name doesn't matter, Sue. Well then, Subaru raised his hand. I vow that as long as Lai Batenkaitos provides me with the correct location of Regulus Cornea's wives, I shall let her escape this time. Also vow that none of your allies will chase me down either, Sue. Lai demanded, bouncing nervously like a rabbit ready to bolt. Subaru's eyebrow twitched. This damn shorty, he really caught the loophole. Fine, he grunted. The vow was sealed, and the moment it was, Lai practically sang out the location and bolted, vanishing into the horizon like a scared alley cat. Subaru sighed, turning back toward the wreckage. Scattered across the ground were the neatly sliced remnants of Regulus Corneas. His body was hacked apart, 4 limbs, bisected torso, even his skull was split. And yet, he lived. His brain may have been cleaved, mouth incapable of speech, but his authority still lingered, unbroken. Not even the yin sword could override that frozen moment in time. But Regulus was useless now. A broken thing clinging to life. With a flick of his fingers, Subaru wrapped the mangled pieces in a veil of telekinesis and hovered them beside him like grotesque trophies. Then, with a flash of light, he vanished, teleporting back to the mansion. I still have a long road ahead. ____. To be continued. Don't be shy and give me whatever power stones you have. Let's take this FIC to top 1. If we reach top 1. 28 comments 0 vote. 36 The Unforgivable. Third POV. It's the white whale, Wilhelm muttered, clenching his fists as he stared at the massive corpse of one of the strongest mabeasts in the world. Someone got to it before us, Crush said through gritted teeth, her eyes narrowing in frustration. Her fists tightened by her side. It was supposed to be her hunt. The victory that would skyrocket her camp's reputation. All her planning, all that effort, gone, just like that. My, who do you suppose slayed this beast, Julius? Anastasia asked with a sly smile, glancing toward her purple-haired knight. I'm not certain, Anastasia-sama, Julius replied, his tone thoughtful. But that pillar of light, it resembled Reina van Astria's technique. Wilhelm's fists clenched even tighter as he turned to face Julius. Sir Julius, are you saying Reina killed the beast? Julius shook his head slightly. I only meant that the attack looked similar to her style. I recall the pillar of light she unleashed during her battle with Divine General Cecilus, it was even more powerful. But that one was pure white, not blue. Couldn't it, be another one of the 10 swords of power? Felix chimed in, tail flicking as he raised a brow. You're right, Wilhelm muttered, staring down at the massive corpse. For years, he had waited. For years, he had vowed to slay this damn beast. And now, with his only wish lying dead before him, fulfilled by someone else, he felt nothing but emptiness. So, what do we do now? Anastasia asked casually, breaking the silence. What do you mean? Crush glanced at her, visibly confused. Anastasia smirked. If the person who slayed the white whale doesn't come forward, maybe we can claim the credit. What are you saying, Lady Anastasia? Julius asked, clearly horrified by the suggestion. We can just say that blue beam of light was one of your attacks, Julius, she said, smiling innocently. Crush's glare was sharp enough to cut steel. Absolutely not. Whether the person reveals themselves or not, I refuse to take credit for something I didn't do. Anastasia sighed, clearly unimpressed by Crush's unwavering sense of justice. Fine, let's give it a few weeks. If nothing comes of it, we take the credit. That is not what I meant. Crush snapped. So the corpse is still here, huh? A familiar voice echoed out of nowhere, startling everyone. Subaru had appeared, just like that. Julius and Wilhelm instinctively drew their swords the moment Subaru appeared, only to relax slightly upon recognizing him. Naya, what is that? Felix yelped, pointing at the floating chunks of meat hovering behind him. That's the Sin Archbishop of Greed, Regulus Corneas, Subaru said casually, dropping the bomb. The Sin Archbishop of Greed. Crush gasped, immediately unsheathing her weapon as everyone around tensed up. Relax. He's technically alive because of his authority, but he's no threat anymore, Subaru added, trying to calm them. Crush narrowed her eyes but didn't move, sensing he wasn't lying. Zero, Anastasia spoke up, her tone sharp. May I ask why he's in that condition, and with you? To be honest, I'm not really obligated to answer that, Subaru replied flatly. The audacity, Julius began, but his words died in his throat as Subaru turned his gaze on him. For a moment, it felt like death itself had descended. Julius froze. He didn't even dare breathe. The rest could feel it too, a suffocating, murderous aura that wrapped around them like chains. Listen closely, Subaru said, tiredly. I'm not your servant. I don't owe you anything. I'll speak however I damn well please. I'm just here to check on the white whale's corpse, Subaru said plainly. Sir Zero, did you slay the white whale? Crush asked, eyes wide. The entire group stiffened, holding their breath for his answer. Yeah, I did. Also took down the Archbishop of Sloth, and forced the Archbishop of Gluttony to retreat, Subaru added, dropping another bomb without a hint of drama. Wilhelm choked, emotions surging within him, shock, disbelief, and anger. He clenched his fists, heart heavy. Old man, I can feel it, you know. Your emotions. Your frustration, Subaru said quietly, sensing Wilhelm's turmoil through his aura. I apologize, Wilhelm finally said, voice low. I spent so many years chasing revenge. And now that it's over, without me even raising a sword. He trailed off. Subaru let out a sigh. I get it. I really do. But it came after me first. It was kill or be killed. Wilhelm slowly nodded, still processing it all. Around them, the soldiers whispered in awe, staring at the boy they once dismissed, now the slayer of a legendary beast. Silence. Crush snapped, and the murmurs instantly stopped. Sir Zero, Anastasia spoke, her voice calm and curious, what do you plan to do now? To Anastasia, no matter how strong Zero was, he still needed to follow the laws of the kingdom. Isn't it obvious? The Amelia camp will be taking credit for slaying the white whale, the Sin Archbishop of Sloth, and the Archbishop of Greed, once I'm done dealing with this guy, he said, gesturing toward the floating remains of Regulus. Anastasia let out a quiet sigh. That half-elf's camp, they have the worst reputation among the candidates, but this will change everything. Their standing will skyrocket. They'll become one of the strongest contenders, she thought, biting her lip. A part of her wanted to strike him down right there. If she could defeat Zero and take the credit, it would secure her place as the leading faction. But even she knew how foolish that idea was. This boy had slain the white whale, something not even the legendary sword saint could do. And he'd crushed not one but two archbishops. It wasn't a feat just anyone could replicate. Still, she had to try something. Sir Zero, have you ever considered switching camps? She suddenly asked, catching everyone off guard. It was unlike her to bring up something so serious without preparation. Normally, she'd call for a formal meeting to even propose such a deal. However, if Amelia's camp had already claimed credit by the time she met him again, any deal would become meaningless. She was a merchant through and through, and timing was everything. How about it? Anastasia said, tilting her head slightly. If you join my camp, I'll grant you access to all my resources. And you said Miss Amelia was your friend, right? If you join me, I'll treat you as my equal. She laid all her cards on the table. It was a calculated move. Anastasia assumed Zero was prideful, someone who saw Amelia, a royal candidate, as an equal at best, not a superior. Offering him a lesser deal would have been a fatal misstep. You didn't bargain lightly with someone who just did the impossible. Before Subaru could answer, Crush stepped forward. What? To say that in front of me? She said, voice rising. Sir Zero, I have an offer as well. If you join my camp, I will make you my fiancé. You will share in my authority, my privileges, and my power. Everyone froze. Even Subaru was taken aback. Lady Crush, what are you saying? Felix gasped, visibly shaken. Anastasia's smile faded, her expression darkening. Crush's proposal wasn't just bold, it was better. If Subaru accepted, he wouldn't just be her partner. If she won the throne, he would essentially become the king, second only to her, perhaps even her equal. And Subaru, well, he was tempted. Because, damn, she was hot. Really hot. I never understood valuing girls just for their looks. I loved mine for her kindness, saw her beauty through it. But I lost it. If he hadn't gotten used to Reina's and Amelia's otherworldly beauty, Subaru could have said, without hesitation, that Crush was the most beautiful woman he had ever seen. Crush, on the other hand, had made her proposal after careful thought. Not only would it skyrocket her reputation, but unless the other camps pulled off a miracle, this would effectively end the royal selection race. Besides, she had always known she'd eventually enter a political marriage. But marrying Zero, the man who had slain the white whale and two Sin archbishops, was far better than tying herself to some pampered noble. Truth be told, her ideal husband had always been someone strong and brave. Subaru didn't just meet those standards, he exceeded them. I won't lie, I'm very, very tempted, Subaru said with a sheepish grin. After all, Miss Crush is an incredibly graceful and beautiful woman. Crush blushed at the compliment, her usually composed expression cracking for just a moment. Anastasia clenched her teeth, her sharp gaze flickering toward the Duchess. Well played, Duchess. Really well played. She was confident in her own charm, cute and clever, but she knew she couldn't match Crush's regal presence. Then Subaru sighed. And just like that, everyone held their breath. Will he accept Anastasia Sama's offer instead? Julius thought anxiously. Both of your proposals are quite good. But, I refuse. A silence fell. Subaru could practically hear the devil on his shoulder screaming in disbelief. There was a brief silence. May I ask why you refused? Crush finally spoke, her voice calm but searching. She met his gaze steadily, unable to comprehend his reasoning. From her point of view, the proposal she'd made wasn't something any sane man would easily turn down. She was a leading royal selection candidate. Duchess of the Karsten House. A brilliant strategist, an admired leader, and, objectively, a stunning woman. So why? It's not because there's anything wrong with you, Subaru began, his tone respectful. If anything I said came off as rude or dismissive, I sincerely apologize. He paused, then continued with a sigh. It's a matter of principles. Principles, Crush repeated, her brow furrowing slightly. Yes, he nodded. I made a promise to Amelia. In front of the royal knights, nobles, hell, the entire capital. I said I'd stand by her side. If I back out now just because of a tempting offer, what do my words even mean? If I betray that, then I'm nothing more than a liar driven by convenience. His expression was firm, his voice unwavering. He was thinking with his head, not with his hormones. Crush slowly nodded, processing his words. I understand, I should have considered your circumstances more carefully. My apologies, Sir Zero. Subaru sighed lightly. Both of them, in their own way, felt a pang of regret. There was no denying they'd have made a strong match. HMPH. Anastasia huffed abruptly, snapping the moment. Julius. Everyone. We're leaving. Without waiting for a reply, she turned on her heel. Her mind was already racing, calculating, planning, because one thing was certain now, Amelia's camp was going to rise in fame. And she needed to counter it. Fast. Felix, meanwhile, felt a mixture of anger, jealousy, and happiness. He was angry because Subaru had rejected the offer she made. She had literally offered herself to him. And he rejected her. He was jealous because his lady had even made the offer to take him as her spouse. And he was happy because Subaru had turned down his lady's offer. Yeah, Felix was full of unbridled emotions. Crush, on the other hand, gave a small nod to Subaru. She wasn't going to try to convince him any further, she had her dignity. The fact that she had even offered herself showed just how highly she valued Subaru. What a pity, now I think he's the perfect man to be my husband, she thought, tasting the flavor of regret once again. Man, I must have crazy willpower to reject her offer, Subaru thought, turning away. Meanwhile, Crush, her camp, and Anastasia's entire camp began preparing to depart. While they hadn't fulfilled their objective, the white whale was still dead. Wilhelm, meanwhile, felt extremely weak. He felt empty, devoid of any purpose. Teresia, I failed. He looked up at the sky, a tear falling down his cheek. Before I leave, Sir Wilhelm, there's something I want to talk to you about, Subaru said, garnering his attention. Crush, Anastasia, Felix, and Julius all turned their gazes toward them. What you did to Reina was unforgivable, Subaru said. Wilhelm slowly turned to face Subaru, his eyes distant, lost in the memories of battles long past and a woman he had loved beyond all else. What is it, Sir Zero? He asked, his voice raspier than usual, worn down by emotions he could no longer suppress. Subaru walked up to him, his gaze calm but sincere. I know what it's like to lose someone important. To live with the kind of pain that gnaws at you, day in and day out. But that doesn't mean what you did was right. You owe her an apology. Subaru said, before teleporting away. Wilhelm looked down, recalling everything he had said to Reina. He couldn't be a good husband, a good father, a good grandfather. He himself felt guilty for what he had done to Reina. He had been clouded by anger, and had called his own granddaughter a monster. He clenched his fists. He had ignored what Heinkel had done to his daughter all these years. He had ignored how he abused her, and now, with the white whale dead, he realized what he had truly lost in his pursuit of revenge. Wilhelm van Astria had done the unforgivable. To be continued. We became the top 2 for a moment, the top 1 isn't far. Let's reach that goal together. I hope we can become top 1. Seriously, I have been in top 10 a few times, even top 4 with my Poseidon FIC. Never realized that with such a small franchise as ReZero we can get in top 3, you guys seriously rock.